Morohan starts off as your average loser, struggling with social anxiety and a serious case of awkwardness. But as the story goes on, he turns into the most emotionless, cold-hearted dude ever. In a world where everyone has one talent, he breaks the mold by eating monsters to steal and stack their skills endlessly. Plus, he's got a boss named Kang, a ripped girl with abs you definitely shouldn't be thinking about. Some might think Maru has it easy, but the truth is, the odds are totally against him. In just a year, monsters will start falling from the sky, throwing the world into chaos, and it's up to him to stop it. But before everything goes crazy, let's rewind a bit. The story kicks off in a restricted area of a camp deep in the woods. A guy is lying on the ground with blood on his shirt. In front of him, a bunch of people are dead. Desperate, he says there's something in this yellow dust. A shadowy figure approaches him, wielding a huge sword, all covered in red, with some bells dangling from the tip. The boy pleads it's for help, but at that moment, a weird creature jumps out of the bushes and grabs his foot. The guy gets pulled into the smoke, leaving a trail behind. Later on, his body is discovered dead. A group of friends looks at him, saying he shouldn't have been wandering around there. One of the team complains they'll have to mark it as a casualty, while the one with black hair mentions that, based on the footprints, they need to start working before it's too late. That's when the pretty one hears water nearby. The three turn around, and she starts moving her hand into her pocket. She pulls out a knife and makes a cut on her hand. The blade gets soaked, and then her blood seems to interact with the sword, starting to flow up her arm. The one with glasses points to the dust and says it's coming. The girl steps forward and says she'll take care of it. That little knife seems to have absorbed her whole arm and has now turned into a giant sword. On her back, it shows she's part of the Yellow Dust Task Force. The scene then shifts to a totally different location. In a building, a public service job interview is happening in Seoul. A bunch of people are in the waiting room while numbers are being called. In the bathroom, someone says they feel like they're about to pass out. He doesn't want to go in, he just wants to go home. His heart feels like it's about to burst. With his hand on his chest and his heart racing, he says this can't be happening. He rushes to the sink, splashes water on his face, and tries to calm himself, repeating that he can do this. He just needs to take a few more pills, and even though there are a lot, at least they help. Out of nowhere, he catches a glimpse of a little bird landing on a branch. The tiny creature looks at him, and he stares back. After a brief moment, the bird opens one big eye, as if asking what he's staring at and telling him he's in trouble. But he doesn't seem too fazed, just noting that panic attacks are really a mess. Meanwhile, on his way to the interview room, the news reports that 4 campers have gone missing in a nearby province. He keeps walking, reassuring himself that he can do this. His name is Maruhan. He's 29 and as average as they come. He's just a regular student from a typical school who graduated from a so-so university and is having a tough time finding a job. If that's his mom, I'm worried. I can't tell what's bigger, her heart or her mouth. This is the 5th year he's been trying to become a public servant, and only now is he finally at the interview stage. Just then, a woman walks in and calls his name. He jumps up excitedly, saying he's here, while telling himself that this time, he's definitely got it. He walks in stiffly, convincing himself it'll be easy, until he faces the big boss behind the laptop staring him down. The guy's confidence takes a hit when the interviewer asks why he wants to be a civil servant. He awkwardly blurts out that he wants to give back to the community and help society. Yeah, that sounds good. But inside, he's really thinking he wants stability, a steady paycheck, a secure life, and not too many surprises. Then, the interviewer asks what he'd do if his boss messed up. Mario says that honestly, he'd point out the mistake and try to find a solution while staying flexible and positive. He knows if he says he wouldn't do anything, they won't like him, so he's just playing along, as if he'd actually get involved in other people's issues. Then the guy asks how he deals with people. With a bright, confident smile, he admits he's terrible at it. He struggles to communicate, gets stressed easily, and was bullied in school because of his panic attacks and everything else. He said one thing, but in his mind he was thinking he's super friendly, has awesome friends, and still chats with his old classmates. The interviewer looks puzzled, and the guy realizes he mixed up what he was supposed to say and what he was actually thinking. What a goof. The guy just clears his throat and says it's time to move on to the last question. A glint of light bounces off his glasses as he asks Maru how he dealt with the toughest moment in his life. Looking pretty foolish, Maru admits that life's been pretty smooth for him and he hasn't faced much. But the guy keeps pushing, telling him to just think of any issue that pops into his head. Maru, feeling all twisted up, says nothing really comes to mind, Except that time he went to the mountains with his dad. That's when he remembers being near that yellow mist. His heart races as he recalls the dark creature with golden eyes staring right at him. Now his breathing gets shallow. The creature in front of him had tons of eyes sprouting from its head, with a heap of bloody bodies on the ground while Maru was still just a kid. Now frozen in the interview, his vision starts to blur, and the chair tips back, causing him to crash to the floor. He stares at the ceiling, everything spinning, until the interviewer comes over, calling out for Mr. Han, shaking his shoulders and asking if he's all right. But in the middle of his panic attack, the kid tries to hold back his vomit. Too late. The interviewer must have gotten completely soaked. And just like that, we're back at his house, with him sprawled on the bed, mumbling about how it was a total disaster. He's convinced that interview is a lost cause. Without a job, a girlfriend, or friends, how's he supposed to live a normal life? Suddenly, someone knocks on the door, and he has no clue who it is. Still a mess, he stumbles to the door and opens it, asking, "What's up?" Wow, it's a huge woman. Or maybe it's not even a woman, hard to tell. The towering figure asks why he didn't answer sooner. He calls her mom, but then sees her step into the room, 3 meters tall, built like a JoJo character. But hey, a mother is always a mother. She says she brought him some food and was about to head out. He thanks her and asks if there's any meat. She replies there isn't any, just kimchi and beans. He thanks her anyway. With a jawline that could make cows envious, she looks around and sees he's just been munching on instant noodles, leaving napkins everywhere, and chugging soda. Meanwhile, he's sitting there all slumped but enjoying his meal. Noticing the mess, she starts cleaning up, wondering how he can live like this. He says he'll tidy it up later, but she's more curious about how the interview went. That's the last straw. The poor guy just collapses to the floor, totally defeated. He mutters that there's no way he's telling her he threw up on the interviewer. His mom crosses her arms and gives him a light smack on the back, saying if he can't even get through this, there's no point in stressing. While he's sulking, she keeps cleaning. After a bit, she even hands him some cash. He's touched by her kindness, but insists he's an adult now and needs to earn his own money. But then she stretches out her huge arm, flexing every muscle, and he quickly takes it. She scratches her massive chin and says if he flunked the interview, then his shaman was probably right. She tells him he needs to go to the mountain. For a moment, he looks scared, but soon enough, they arrive. The sun's blazing, and he's in a sweater and pants. Now that's a real otaku. As he thinks about how many years it's been, he realizes he never thought he'd be back here, in front of the mountain where it all went down. Then he remembers his mom talked to a great shaman about why he couldn't get a job. The shaman said it had nothing to do with his panic attacks or ADHD. It was because his dad, who died 20 years ago and vanished mysteriously, left a barrier on his soul that needed to be cleared. Until that happened, he couldn't move on in life. To become a public servant, he had to make an offering on the mountain to soothe his father's spirit. But after all this walking, he has no clue when he'll finally get there. Eventually, he finds a gate and thinks, "This is it." He opens it and hesitates for a moment, glancing to the side. In that instant, he seems to spot a version of himself. Given how transparent it is, I guess it's either a soul or a memory. The boy rushes to the house's entrance and slowly starts to open the door. Inside, a man stands with his back to him. Maru swings the door wide open and just stands there, staring. After a moment, he steps closer, tugs at his dad's pant leg, and says he's hungry. But his dad has this weird look on his face and suddenly starts yelling. The boy flinches, and just like that, the illusion disappears. Then he feels a sharp pain in his chest and realizes another panic attack is hitting him. He takes a deep breath and lets it out. Feeling a bit calmer, he digs into his backpack, pulls out the liquor, and pours it into a cup. He tosses it around the house, telling his dad he hopes he's having a good time wherever he is. He says he only came because his mom asked him to, telling his dad to rest in peace. That's why he's there, to pray for the mountain spirits. He remembers that after his dad passed, his mom worked hard so he could grow up and find a job. As he offers his prayer, that yellow dust starts creeping in. Maru wonders if all this smoke means there's a fire in the mountain. He starts running, reminding himself that safety comes first. But then he hears a strange voice echoing, repeating, "Safety first." He wonders if it's just an echo and glances back. In the yellow mist, a figure appears. "Ma'am, you've seen this before, so why are you still standing there?" A bloated monster with a burst head shows up, repeating "Safety first." Poor Maru has so many hallucinations that he thinks it's just another one. He wipes his eyes, expecting it to vanish. But whatever it is, it keeps coming closer. He knows something's off and that he better start running. But then something stabs through his stomach. Already on his knees, he wonders if this is how he's going to die. He spent his whole life studying, struggling for a job, and never got to enjoy anything. On the bright side, if he dies, he won't have to worry about work or bills anymore. He smirks, saying he knows no one will care. But then he remembers his GigaChad mom. She always worked hard, supported him no matter what, and was just happy to see her son doing well. Feeling the strength of GigaChad, he pushes himself up despite the thing still stuck in him, insisting he won't die here. But then the creature catches his scent and starts creeping toward him, looking all kinds of weird. The monster keeps mumbling about safety first as it lunges to bite him, revealing an eye inside its mouth. It grabs onto Maru's waist, and he struggles to pull away to dodge the bite. But the monster's mouth is massive, and it bites down on his shoulder. Maru screams in pain, thinking that if this keeps happening, he might black out. That's when he remembers his dad telling him to eat. If the monster can bite, so can he. He sinks his teeth into the creature's neck, ripping off a chunk. Man, this kid is savage. The monster never saw this coming, and now it's thrashing in agony while that huge eye in its mouth keeps staring at him. Dark energy starts leaking out from its iris. Suddenly, Maru's mind is flooded with images of bodies being dragged away by these creatures, a brutal scene where the monsters are fighting each other. Watching it all is his strange green eye, looking down on the chaos. Maru struggles to make sense of what he's seeing, who's talking to him, and if he might already be dead. His mouth tastes metallic, and he wonders if this is what death feels like. Someone calls out his name. Again, he wonders who it could be this time. Slowly, he opens his eyes, and a guide next to him asks what he's doing in a restricted area. With blood still on his mouth, Maru is confused and jumps up in shock. He quickly scans the area, trying to find where that monster went, or the creature that came from the yellow dust. The guy in the Hawaiian shirt asks Maru what he saw and what he said. Maru explains that a yellow mist appeared next to him. He got attacked by a monster, and now he just woke up. He thought he was going to die since his stomach was pierced. The people who found him exchange looks and signal to each other. The Hawaiian shirt guy mentions that when the alarm went off about a demon, he thought it was a false alarm, but clearly it wasn't. Plus, it seems like this kid actually killed it. The girl replies that it's impossible. Sure, you can gain a demon's power from its blood, but you can't just use its abilities right away. The guy looks at Maru, calls his name, and asks if he knows what happened yesterday. Standing there in his ripped shirt like a fashion disaster, Maru wonders what he means by yesterday. He checks his phone and nearly freaks out. He's been out cold for a whole day. Meanwhile, the two are saying that if he made it this long, he must have some powers now. The girl chimes in that it's too early to say anything since he just woke up and probably doesn't get what's going on. The guy reassures her, saying it's normal for everyone to go through this, and then puts his hands on Maru's shoulders, saying he showed up at just the right moment. He's gonna have to join in. Maru has no clue what the guy is talking about, but he's told to change out of his ripped clothes first. A bit later, they find themselves back at the orientation for new hires in the special service. Now Maru is sitting there in his old shirt, totally confused. How did he end up at a government orientation all of a sudden? On top of that, the vibe is super off. Everyone looks weird with these unsettling expressions. That's when someone in red clogs walks in. She adjusts her pants, and wow, another Giga Chad woman. Seriously, is everyone here new? She introduces herself as Yu Young, the head of this place, and welcomes the new hires. Ryu raises his hand, saying maybe he shouldn't be part of this. But she just tells him not to stress, that she just got his info, and he's in. Congrats. He's a new hire. The poor guy stands there, totally confused by what this wild woman is saying. She keeps going with her speech, saying everyone should already know about the special employees here. Their job is to protect lives. First off, they can't tell family or friends that they work here. If that info leaks, there will be consequences for breaking national security rules. Maru thinks this is a really serious thing to say. Yu Young then adds that everyone here must have gotten new demon powers this month. When a demon's blood gets into your system, there's a chance you'll gain an ability. Right away, Maru realizes this must have happened when he bit the monster. She goes on to say that their lucky demons are currently only in the mountains. The yellow dust is the first sign that a demon is about to show up. The dust levels go from 1 to 10. Clearly, more dust means a stronger creature. She calls out to Xian Wu, who raises his hand. She notes that since he got his ability from a level 7 creature, she's excited to see what he can do. The good-looking guy confidently says he'll give it his all, and that she shouldn't worry. Then Yu Young turns her focus to Maru. She points out that he got an ability from a level 1 demon and asks what it is. Still a bit dazed, He admits he has no clue what his ability is yet. Right away, some smug jerk nearby starts laughing. That guy could use a bite on the neck. Or maybe not. Something tells me that would be weird. Better to let it go. Maru feels annoyed but decides to brush it off. After all, he just wants to get out of here as fast as he can. Suddenly, a loud alarm goes off in the room. Yu Young says it's perfect timing. This is the alert that a demon has shown up. In the next moment, they're climbing the mountain. She announces it's time for their practical test. The ideal chance to try out their new abilities. Naturally, the one wondering why he's even here is our buddy Maru. What he really wants is to leave before things get risky. But just as he's thinking about safety again, he runs into that annoying yellow dust. His face says it all. He's terrified. Then, through the thick fog, he spots a woman's silhouette. It's the girl with the mummy gear, and he wonders if she's all right. At that moment, she turns around, and Maru jumps. She had stabbed a 3-meter-tall creature with a stick. Maru falls to the ground in shock, while everyone else watches in amazement. Yu Young tells everyone to focus because the practical test is kicking off. The creature in front looks tough, but it's just a rank 1 demon, the weakest of the bunch. Captain Kang had it pinned against the wall, so there was nothing to worry about. But Kang was more interested in the kid with the shocked expression, the one who somehow took down a demon all by himself yesterday. She was curious about someone who gained powers right when facing a creature, since that's super rare. Meanwhile, Yu Yam was just pumped up. She told everyone to start using DEVOUR. Pause. But our guy just stood there in the cold, staring at that giant creature, thinking this woman had lost it. How was he supposed to fight something like that? Panic hit him hard, his chest felt tight, and breathing got tough. In a flash, he found himself standing on a red river. A creature with black limbs came closer, looking like a mix between a woman and a dog, all covered in messy fur. It was ugly as hell. He just stood there, quietly suffering, when the monster almost put its hand on his head. The creature grabbed his whole head, turned it to the side, and told him to eat. So this guy's got a Naruto Kyuubi situation going on in his mind. But on the outside, he was giving off serious Tokyo Ghoul vibes. While everyone else was tense, he was practically drooling, saying he wanted to eat. And not just a little drool, no, this was some serious illustrated saliva. Someone touched his shoulder, making him jump. It was Xianwu, asking if he was laughing out of pure fear. Being honest, Maru said no, he was just really hungry. Man, I already want to punch this damn Xianwu for thinking Maru is pathetic for being hungry right now. Now that I see our boy is like Tokyo Ghoul, maybe he really does deserve a bite. Maru calmed himself, wondering what the heck that was and why he was so hungry. At the top of the mountain, Yu Young called for everyone's attention. Before they could use their powers, she needed to go over the basics. She explained that the different amounts of yellow mist were due to the demons. Of course, the stronger the demon, the more mist it created. Then she pulled out a knife and said that wasn't all. She made a small cut on her hand and explained that those with demon powers healed faster in the mist. But a serious injury could still be deadly, so they had to be careful. Plus, their powers only kicked in while fighting creatures in the mist. Outside of it, they were just regular people. Sion Woo, the humblest guy in Korea, yawned and asked how long she'd keep talking. She should have started with the most important part, how to activate the power. He said he'd give it a shot. Biting his lip, blood trickled out and the yellow mist started to move toward him. Something inside him seemed to trigger. He felt stronger, and his eyes turned golden. The trick was to let the mist get into his bloodstream. He put on a glove and said it was time to start. Suddenly, the stake lodged in the monster's head blew up. Kangang yelled for everyone to watch out as the yellow mist surrounded them. Now free, the monster moved, roaring at them before slamming the ground. The poor newbies were already freaking out. Kang tried to step in, but Yu Young told her to hold back. Kang argued it was too much for the beginners. But Yu Young stood her ground, saying it was the perfect chance to practice. If they couldn't handle a level 1 creature, they'd just die anyway. The monster suddenly sniffed the air and locked eyes with Maru, who was frozen in fear. He wondered why this thing was staring at him. Then out of nowhere, the monster's hand opened, and a knife shot out, flying straight at Maru. That thing was quick. Maru got hit in the arm and fell to the ground in pain. Kang felt bad for him as he writhed around. He got back up, arm hurting, but the monster was already closing in, ready to crush him. The beast landed right next to him, creeping closer. They locked eyes as it reached out. But suddenly, something burst out of the ground. A giant centipede wrapped around the creature, choking it while staring it down. Turns out, this was Sion Wu's power, the demon centipede. For a guy obsessed with looks, his ability was pretty ugly. Then the girl attacked from behind, slicing the monster's head off. Her power came from the Rojo demon, whatever that was. What you need to know is that the monster just lost half its brain and was screaming at the sky, spreading more mist. The girl smirked, saying at least they had one. But then the yellow mist swirled back into the monster's head, fully restoring it. Now the idiots realized its regeneration was super strong. The monster grabbed the centipede and yanked it from Sunwoo's neck. Since it was attached to his arm, it used it like a whip, sending Sunwoo flying into the girl. Then it pulled Sunwoo back in, squeezing him tight. This thing was just petty. Opening its huge mouth to bite down, something snapped inside a glove. The monster's neck twisted violently, and it let go of Xianwu. Now it made sense. Xianwu wasn't just some flashy guy. The guy was stylish. He had the ability of the temple demon. Apparently, when he broke his own bones, he could break the monster's too. As the creature lunged, Xianwu took off his glove and shattered his wrist, telling it to die. With that, the monster's neck twisted and exploded. Its body fell to the ground, leaving its head at his feet like a soccer ball. Songhu explained that once a demon's head is cut off, it can't emit or absorbs mist anymore, so that was it. The other trainees were left shocked. He mentioned it was a good chance to try something new, but then Kang showed up behind him, asking if he broke her stake on purpose to wake up the demon. The kid had villain potential. He just denied it. No way. But where's the proof? She grabbed his arm, suggesting they could find out fast by breaking his fingers to see if her weapon would break again. Yidong clapped her hands, jumping in to compliment Xianwu for nailing it on his first attempt. But someone was missing. Our guy had bolted. He wanted nothing to do with a job like this. No way. He was after a chill normal life, not one where he had to battle demons with cursed powers. But someone needed to remind him he was the main character here, so he couldn't just run away from the action. Yu Young shook her head, saying that someone who runs away like that isn't cut out to be a special agent. Meanwhile, Kang was still trying to wrap her head around what she had just seen. There were tons of targets around, yet the creature had clearly gone after him. Yu Young quickly told them to find him and check if he was okay. But Kang was the only one who caught the obvious detail. Why was the yellow mist still there if the leader was dead? Now everyone else started to wonder the same thing. Meanwhile, Maru was standing in front of a gate that was giving off a crazy amount of mist. He was curious about why it was there. At that moment, a new monster showed up. It was massive, at least 15 meters tall, and Maru quickly ducked behind a bush. Why him again, of all people? Why did he, the one wanting to escape the most, have to run into something like this? He peeked again to see if Ed was gone, but nope. The monster was right behind him. Just then, the guy with dyed hair called for Kang Channa. Yep, that's her name, folks. She asked what was going on, and he said he got an alert from headquarters. They spotted a level 3 demon nearby. Yu Young thought that was strange. Demons don't usually pop up like this one after another. Kang was curious about the location, and honestly, we could probably guess it, right? Our guy was sprinting for his life in the restricted zone, sliding on the ground and yelling for help, until he tripped over a rock and face-planted. He got back up and saw that same house, his dad's place. At least he was familiar with this spot and where to hide. He bolted to a house with a metal door and ducked behind it, catching his breath and wondering what that thing was. He peeked through a crack, trying to convince himself the monster wouldn't chase him this far. But of course, it was right there. Why was this thing so fixated on him? Plus, he had no clue what those weird things floating around its head were. Suddenly, he heard the gate creak open. An old man walked in calling for someone and wondering why there was so much yellow mist around. The old guy's cataracts were so bad he couldn't even see the 15-meter-tall monster right in front of him. Meanwhile, the creature was grinning, ready to pounce. Maru realized he had to do something to save the old man before it was too late. The issue? He just wasn't strong enough. How was he supposed to handle this? That's when he remembered what Yu Young had said. Those with demon powers could heal while in the mist, but a serious injury could still kill him. His hands shook. He knew he could die. Maybe he should just stay hidden and save himself instead of risking his life for a stranger. The old man squinted, asking if that was Chengsik's mom. Even the monster looked puzzled, echoing her words. The old woman stepped closer, scolding it for copying her. Then she froze. That was a close call. Her eyesight might not be great, but up this close, her cataracts didn't matter. She could see the huge creature right in front of her. Scared out of her mind, she stumbled back, trying to wrap her head around what she was seeing. Meanwhile, the monster just kept echoing her words. It lifted a finger, and spikes were aimed at her. Then it struck. Blood sprayed everywhere. Ivan was sure Maru had jumped in front of it and taken the blow. When the old woman finally opened her eyes, she found the boy bleeding in her lap. He weakly asked if she was all right. She replied yes, but he slumped onto her, missing an arm and looking pale. Man, this kid was in pain. Struggling to stay awake, he told the old lady to run, wondering why he got stuck with such a weak ability. His power was as useless as the resumes he sent out. In the end, he was going to die and wouldn't even save the old woman. All he wanted was for someone stronger to come and rescue him for once. As he lay there waiting, the yellow mist started creeping into his arm. Veins popped up on his neck, and he started drooling. Then, in a sudden rush, he lunged at the monster to bite it. Meanwhile, Kang was running through the woods. She heard a scream behind her and turned around. She burst through the gate and saw something wild. Maru was gnawing on the monster's neck. Horrified, she couldn't believe what this rookie was doing. The creature grabbed Maru by the head and slammed him into the wall. He was barely aware, but it seemed like he had swallowed the piece he bit off. The monster, on the other hand, was furious. That little jerk had actually bitten him. As the monster tried to escape, Kang noticed something. The part Maru bit off wasn't healing. She didn't get why, but now wasn't the time to think about it. She lunged at the monster, jumped high, and grabbed one of its crystals. Then, she activated her steel demon power, turning the crystal into a sword. The monster roared and shot spikes at her. She turned just in time and deflected them all with her blade. The creature had to defend itself from its own attack. But now she was right in front of it, deadly and stunning, ready to strike with a precise vertical slash. The creature was sliced in half and crumbled into dust. The fight was finally over. Blood poured down, soaking the area in red. She walked over to the old woman, checking if she was all right. The woman looked like she had fainted. A moment later, she suddenly woke up, looking confused. Kang, now totally clean since the blood had turned to dust, casually told her a wild boar had come through. That was it. The old woman mumbled that boars often pass by here. Kang reassured her not to worry. She would take care of it. The woman thanked her for her help and headed home. Kang's expression shifted instantly. She turned to Maru, determined to figure out what this kid was all about. She had never heard of someone with a level 1 ability regenerating a whole arm out of nowhere. By all accounts, his ability should have been weak. He cut his toe. Our boy is yelling in frustration. He just got a message saying he was starting work tomorrow. But after recalling that spiked monster that almost killed him, he had zero interest in that job. Maru flopped onto his bed, grumbling that there was no way he was going to that job, but he really needed the work. Whether he needed a job or not, he was too wiped out to think straight, so he just decided to crash. But honestly, this guy never caught a break. As usual, he found himself dreaming about that war where the red monsters were tearing each other apart. A voice called out to him, urging him to come back. Out of nowhere, he jolted awake, drenched in sweat, staring at his hands, trying to wrap his head around what just happened. Morning had already broken. He took a look outside and saw the whole mountain was ablaze. Among the burning trees, a creature made of ash was strolling around, igniting everything in sight. Then, a drenched girl showed up, splashing water at it. Honestly, those tiny splashes weren't going to make a difference. But she wasn't by herself. Another person came in and launched an ice attack. The monster's leg froze solid, turning it into a giant popsicle. The girl called for the leader, pointing out how weird it was that creatures like this shouldn't be around at night. But the guy told her not to stress about that right now. First, they needed to stop the fire from spreading. The monster was starting to melt the ice. He pulled out 2 swords, claiming he would handle it. He charged at the creature, but just then, something popped out from his forehead. A creepy eye opened, giving a command to bring that person. In a flash, the monster broke free. The captain and the creature were closing in on each other. One was ready to slash, while the other was about to throw a punch. At least the guy managed to block, but even then, he got sent flying into a tree, crashing hard. He was totally wrecked. The soaked girl called for the leader in a panic. But the creature hunched down, and a cauldron formed on its back. Lava started spilling out, and the captain realized the monster was growing bigger and stronger. Meanwhile, at headquarters in Seoul, the monitors were flashing red, blaring emergency alerts. Yu Young wanted an update. With all these alerts going off, it was clear things were going downhill fast. A team member said 20 mountains were being attacked at once. The way these creatures were showing up had changed suddenly. This had only started this week, but no one knew why. Then a staff member interrupted, saying they had an urgent call from Busan. Yu Young picked up, asking what was going on. Anne immediately chimed in with, "Hey, big sis!" The caller was Ba Myung-sik, the director in Busan. He wanted to know when she planned to visit his city. She sighed, said hi, and told him to get to the point. That's when he explained what was happening. A portal had been open for 3 days straight. Yu Young was shocked. How could that even happen? Reachers just kept coming out. The team there was worn out, fighting non-stop with no end in sight. Yu Hyung asked why the portal wasn't closing and if they knew the cause. Ma Young-sik said. The monster kept repeating the same thing over and over. They even sent a girl with translation skills to help figure it out. The monster's message was to bring that person. As it kept rampaging, Yu Young asked who this person was. Ma Yoon-sik admitted that was the issue, they had no clue. He didn't know who it was, but whoever it was needed to show up fast. Yu Hoom then called someone in a helicopter. The guy answered, asking what the issue was. She quickly filled him in on the situation on the mountain. Without missing a beat, the guy stepped to the edge of the helicopter and said, "I'm on my way." He promised to call back once he had things under control. Then he jumped, diving through the air like a shooting star, passing through a wave of yellow mist on the way down. This guy had no fear at all. Suddenly, he activated spatial inversion, hanging in the air. He landed smoothly on top of the gate, leaving everyone below stunned. Who was this crazy person who just appeared out of nowhere? A woman shouted for him to get down. It was risky. Meanwhile, the red-hooded demon smirked, clearly enjoying the scene. It charged at the woman, going for a powerful kick. She just barely dodged it. The issue was, the monster was now right above her, and she had no way to escape. But then, the newcomer reached into the air, opened a spatial tear, and yanked out the monster's entire spine. The creature froze in shock. He casually praised everyone for their efforts, saying they could take a break now. From here on, he would take charge. The captain was excited, but the girl was curious. Who was this guy? The captain explained that he was the first special ability user, the founder of the task force. The guy stretched, put a hand on the ground, and said, "Let's wrap this up." Meet the strongest demon ability user, Director Jong Il-do. Purple lines spread across the ground toward the mist, rising higher and higher until they towered above the moon. From a distance, everyone watched, wondering what the heck that was. The guy with glasses admitted he had never seen anything like this before, but theoretically, this was the most powerful spatial ability ever. Zhang was cutting a path straight into the yellow mist. Back on the fiery mountain, the magma beast had gotten even bigger, and the ice duo was running out of steam. The girl had passed out. The guy shouted for her to get up, or they were both done for. The lava monster lunged again. The ice user quickly put up a barrier, but the monster smashed right through it, sending him flying. They kept hitting him over and over until his shield broke. He crashed to the ground, gasping for air. He realized this was it. This was how he was going to go. Then, a rift opened up behind the monster. John pulled the beast's head through it, tossing the whole thing away. The blast sent crows scattering in all directions. Zhang announced it was time to deal with this monster. Not just this one, but all of them. He activated every rift unit he had. In Gangwon province, a boy was getting trampled by a monster. The creature spoke in a weird language and then stabbed him in the chest. But just then, a rift opened behind it, and the beast was pulled inside. The same thing started happening across all the attacked mountains. The monsters were being dragged to the same spot. On one hand, that was good. Now they were all in one place. On the other hand, that was really risky. One of the staff pointed out that the danger signals were fading, and the director calmly said that just meant he had made it safely. The good news? Young's plan worked, and all the monsters were gathered together. The bad news? Young's plan worked, and all the monsters were in one spot. But Young's was excited. Now it was time to get started. The demon screeched and charged at him. Even with all those monsters around, he just pointed at one and opened a rift. Then, like a dancer, he spun around, slicing in every direction. Demon heads went flying as the rest of the squad watched in shock. They had never seen anyone this strong before. Zhang walked up to the magma creature and called for the translator, telling her he could handle this. He then asked the monster why they all seemed so worked up this week. The translator shared the response. "Bring that person," he said, frowning. He asked who that person was, but the monster just repeated the question. The translator said the creature was just mimicking Zhang. Without a second thought, Zhang slammed the monster to the ground. "If that's how it is," he said, "we'll just keep taking them out until they stop showing up." Covered in blood, he focused on the gate. Once again, he put his hand on the ground and opened a void below. The whole area was swallowed up. Honestly, that was a smart way to deal with things. One squad member sighed in relief, feeling safer knowing they had someone like Zhang to count on. In an instant, he turned off his power, and the gate vanished. The next day at headquarters, Yu Young walked in and immediately asked Zhang what happened to the portal. He casually mentioned it was in his black void and that he was worn out from the effort. But the annoying woman just told him to manage everything like he always did. John groaned, saying he had limits too. He couldn't run the whole organization on his own. He turned on this TV, saying he understood, but he had already gathered the info she wanted. The screen showed photos of all the new recruits. Yu-Gi-On asked why he was so interested in them. He explained he was trying to figure out what the demons wanted. He wasn't just curious. He wanted to know why the demons were after him. Among the heaps of monstrous bodies, there was one massive female corpse. That same Rinne was still on, repeating its message to bring him. Meanwhile, it was Maru's first day at work, and he showed up. His mom had cried when she heard he got a government job. He couldn't share the details, but she was so thrilled that he just couldn't say no. As soon as he got there, Hawaiian shirt guy greeted him and bluntly asked why he was back. The guy shook his head, saying he didn't want a coward on his team. All Maru could smell was the stench of alcohol. The actual boss showed up, and Seon Woo, still angry, quickly said he didn't want to be there. He wanted to be moved to the main city. But the leader just shrugged, saying he didn't understand why a level 7 was sent here either. Clearly, there was something off about him. Either way, they were both welcome on Gongwa's team. Maru was curious about what he'd be doing here when there weren't any demons to hunt. When the leader opened the door, he saw everyone in the office battling zombies and dissecting creatures. But then it hit him. It was just a regular office like any other. The guy in the Hawaiian shirt introduced himself as Goskoi Dyukman, the team leader. The girl with glasses was Yoonju Won, who had 7 years of experience. The plank guy, also here for 7 years, was Kim Yobak, and the TikToker, we already knew him, Yeo Seok. He had 1 year of experience. Go Jackmin told everyone to get along and sit wherever they wanted. Maru, sweating, found a spot to sit. He wondered if everyone felt this stressed on their first day. Feeling nervous, he greeted his new co-workers, hoping to make a good impression. But Fen Sinwoo, sitting right across from him, glared and told him to stop staring. Poor Maru felt crushed. Seon-woo, on the other hand, was furious about being sent to this remote place. Ma shifted his focus back to Yoseok, who was busy checking out designer brands online. He asked what their actual job was. Yoseok casually gestured around, explaining they were a special unit handling yellow dust. There were 13 divisions across Seoul, and those ranked level 7 or above took on special missions. As for their island, it mostly housed the less competent or just plain odd folks. Maru quickly realized that this was why he ended up here. Still, something felt off about this place. Yoseok added that some skilled people actually volunteered for this role. At that moment, both of them turned to look, and wow, that girl was really training hard. Maru, feeling awkward, straightened up, but she was staring right at him. Ju Hwan told her she should head home after her shift, but she just sat down, saying she had no reason to leave. Kang Chana quietly observed that Maru had ended up in this situation. Something weird had happened. She woke up with no memory of the day before. Meanwhile, Maru was stunned to find out he'd be getting hazard pay. The salary was decent, but the existence of hazard pay made it clear his life was always at risk. Then Yoseok mentioned it was 5 times the regular salary. Maru's face completely changed. That was a ton of money. Yoseok, annoyed, told him to stop bugging him. He was busy. Maru, on the other hand, was just trying to figure out what he was supposed to do here. Time went by, he was starting to get used to things. He never thought he'd get such an easy job that paid so well. Then, Gryakman stretched and announced the workday was done. He went over to the 2 newbies, asking if they had any issues or questions. Xiangwu simply replied no. But Maru had one question. He wanted to know where demons really came from and why they existed. Guy Diop just shrugged. No one had a clue. Xiangwu mentioned that most folks think they come from above. Maru noticed that no one knew where these creatures originated, and it seemed like nobody cared. Humanity was in big trouble. It was really frustrating. Still, these people were managing to do their jobs, no matter how strange things got. Back at headquarters, Yu Young took the elevator down. She saw Zhang in front of a golden capsule. They asked her for her thoughts. She looked over some reports and noted that the monster appearances seemed to have leveled off. But Zhang kept staring at the swirling yellow mist, wondering what triggered this spike in creatures. Yudong suggested they might be getting closer to the truth. Zhang wasn't so sure about that. He was looking at a fallen angel, hanging upside down with white hair, and murmured that he wasn't convinced. Zhang wanted all the leaders to stay alert for now. If the rest of the organization caught wind of this, it would lead to total chaos. Then we shifted to Maru, who was asking what they were discussing. The others were grilling some barbecue. casually saying this was exactly why they needed to celebrate as much as they could. Yuga mentioned that because of this prophecy, he tried to enjoy life every single day. Confused, Maru asked them to clarify what was happening. Hu Dopen finally spoke up. There was a prophecy that in a year, demons would start falling from the sky. Countless portals would open worldwide, and the earth would be soaked in blood. Maru instantly thought that sounded incredibly scary. Go Dokman told him to keep that info to himself. It was a top-secret matter. Meanwhile, Yu Young encouraged everyone to drink until they couldn't anymore. Yu Seok warned them to head home, and Kang Shana reminded them to be careful since they had work tomorrow. Apparently, Xian Wu's biggest weakness was booze. He was already totally drunk and out cold. Maru, on the other hand, kept urging everyone to stop drinking, wondering why nobody seemed worried about this apocalypse prophecy. Right at that moment, a golden light appeared over a mountain. A gate opened up in the sky. Yellow dust started pouring out, and a bunch of hands came out from inside. As soon as the first bald monster showed up, everyone's phones went off with an emergency alert. Du Young sighed, annoyed, saying nighttime disasters were a hassle because she just wanted to chill. Meanwhile, Kang Shana stood up, saying she'd be back soon. Xian Wu immediately said he was coming with her, but she shut him down, saying she wanted to take Han Maru instead. Maru wanted no part of this, and here he was, forehead against the car window, wondering how he got into this mess. Kang then called out to him, assuring him he didn't need to stress about the prophecy. Maru replied that this was serious, but she confidently said she was sure the higher-ups were already getting things ready. He might not realize it, but a ton of powerful people were working in this organization. Right now, their main focus was finding the demons and taking them out. Maru was scared, but he was also totally impressed by how cool she was. She then mentioned that he seemed to have a unique ability, and she was eager to see what he could do. Marzu was excited for the first time someone actually expected something from him. Then she casually said, "I've never seen anyone eat like you before." She wondered if it was some kind of gluttony demon power. Maru had no clue what she meant. She explained that it looked like he had the ability to eat demons. He hated the sound of that. But then the scene cut to a monster getting impaled. Kang had easily pinned it down and turned to him. "You're really gonna make me say it? Eat it." Grinning, she explained that his ability seemed to stop regeneration, so she wanted to see it in action. It was time for him to take a bite. Maru paused, tearing off the monster's tentacle. At this point, he figured he might as well get to work. The creature was gross, but he tried to think of it like eating octopus at a restaurant. He leaned in, teeth ready, but only took a tiny bite. Kang told him off, insisting he needed to really bite into it. He had to act like he meant it. Maru sighed, said he got it, and reluctantly started chewing. The next day at the office, Maru was feeling awful. His whole body hurt. Siwoo smirked and mentioned he heard Maru threw up yesterday. What a fool. Maru didn't even care. He just asked Xian Wu what he expected from him. Sang-woo scoffed. Someone like him shouldn't have been sent here. They should pick someone actually useful. He should be thankful that Commander Kang showed even a little interest in his ability. Then he walked off, flat out calling Maru useless trash. Maru got completely roasted, but honestly, the guy had a point. He needed to wake up and put in more effort. That's when the alarm went off. Kang stood up, ready to call his name, but Maru was in the bathroom, hands on his face, trying to figure out how to get used to eating monsters. He had a special ability which was cool, but it was to eat monsters, which wasn't great. As he walked down the hall, he suddenly bumped into Kang. Aunt Nerly had a heart attack. His soul nearly left his body. She raised an eyebrow and asked if he had been hiding in the bathroom. Maru confessed he heard the alarm, but he got food poisoning from biting that creature. Kang sighed and looked down. "So you're really not fit for this job," she mumbled. She said he didn't have to work for the government just because of his special power. There was another way. He could just sign a contract promising not to talk about this to anyone. Then, he'd live his life under constant watch. Maru was stunned. He thought the other option would be a bit easier than that. Kang pointed out that this was better than dying in battle. People with his mental strength usually didn't last long. The way he was acting, he could easily mess up a mission to save someone and let them die. If he really couldn't handle this, he should quit now. Kang leaned in close and said, "We don't need people who can't pull their weight." Damn. Poor Maru. He was getting roasted everywhere he went. Meanwhile, at the office, Kang figured Maru had probably given up. You'd think this was the start of his motivation arc. But no, he was standing on a bridge, actually feeling happy for once. Maybe he really wasn't meant for this. Maybe living under watch was better than dying in a fight. Poor guy had no clue he was the main character in this story, meaning escape was impossible. Just then, his phone rang. It was his mom. He answered, already thinking about how he didn't want to keep fighting monsters. He said, "Hey, what are you up to?" She replied that she was on a hiking trip to Inwang Mountain. Maru froze up, then covered his face and let out a groan. Hadmi had already told her to quit climbing mountains. Then the call suddenly got bad. His mom paused, confused, asking why there was so much yellow dust in the air. His heart sank. The call dropped. Oh no. Now the motivation was kicking in. At Inwang Mountain, the security team was on alert. The security team was already there, getting ready to face a demon. The guards stood still, not knowing what to do. One of them looked up and spotted a creature in a tree, chewing on a human arm. A crystal sparkled on its forehead. It grinned at them. Meanwhile, Maru was racing toward the mountain. Seconds later, the whole security team was dead. The level 5 demon was feasting on the new recruits, and no one was left to stop it. Then, a heavy-set woman, the regional leader, showed up. She activated her duplication power and told the survivors to call for backup while she held off the monster. One of them dashed to use the landline. Since phones were useless here, it was their only choice. Back at headquarters, Yu Young got the emergency call and quickly started organizing the response. She said civilians were in immediate danger. If that level 5 demon reached the city, it would be a slaughter. They were running out of time. Everyone had to move fast. Meanwhile, Maru arrived. But guess who was already there? Maru. He hopped out of a taxi, sprinting full speed toward the entrance. He found the hiking group and quickly scanned for his mom. Not spotting her, he asked one of the guides to let him through. His mom was inside. The guide said no, it was too risky. They claimed there were wild animals around. Wild animals, really? Maru knew better. It wasn't animals, it was demons. While the guards were busy at the main entrance, he was already scaling a mountain from the other side. It was the quickest way up. As he climbed, he hoped his mom was okay. Deep in the mist, someone was struggling with a twisted ankle. It was Jigachad's mom. She bent down, told the hurt woman to hop on her back, and carried her. Then she stopped, noticing something moving in the fog. "What's that?" she whispered. A hand reached out for her. Maru showed up, all panicked. His mom turned in surprise. "How did you find me?" He said he saw her post on social media. She wanted to ask about his new government job, but he brushed it off, not the time for that. The other woman smiled and said, "Oh, so this is the son you mentioned. I'm so happy for you. A government job is a big deal." Mara's mom smiled brightly. "Yes. Now I just need to find him a girlfriend, but he's not exactly a hit with the ladies." Maru sighed. "Can we get back on track? We really need to go." Right then, he sensed something. The demon hovered right above him. He looked up and met its gaze. Panic hit him instantly, and his breathing became erratic. He was frozen. This always happened when he saw a demon. How was he supposed to protect his mom like this? The panic took over. From below, the hurt woman sensed something was off. That boy looked strange. Maru's mom suddenly yelled his name. The demon turned, and Ali lunged at her. She reached for her son just as the demon jumped to grab her. Maru rushed forward but tripped, rolling down the slope like a fool. Too late. The demon was about to sink its teeth into his mom. Maru screamed, but then a surprise attack happened. The demon fell, its back bleeding. Maru, puzzled, stared at the creature. Where did those knives in its back come from? His mom panicked. What the heck is that? Then she spotted something on her son's head. Maru looked up and realized the knives were his. Oh man. He had taken on the power of a demon he had consumed. It suddenly clicked. One of the monsters he battled had this exact skill. Then, he felt something strange in his back, and another knife appeared. No way, he could control it. So his power wasn't just about healing, he could take abilities. He grinned. All right, let's see what this power can do. The demon was already down, trying to crawl away. It was weaker than he thought. That was strange. Why was everyone on the mountain struggling against something so weak? Meanwhile, in another spot on the mountain, a hurt soldier was slumped against the fence. 2 agents from HQ walked up to him. "Are you okay?" Shaking, the man stuttered. "The demon was terrifying. It wiped out my team." One agent rubbed his chin, looking skeptical. "That's hard to believe. The leader here is a level 7 user." Another agent with slick back hair asked, "What ability did the level 5 demon have?" The soldier replied, "It had the mirror ability, which was Maru's real issue." Just then, something glimmered on the demon's back. Maru's eyes went wide. The move he just used had been copied. Before he could react, the demon struck. Its crystals pierced him all over. But Maru wasn't freaking out. He was just stunned. That jerk copied my move. The demon slowly moved closer, its forehead shining like a mirror. Maru quickly figured it out. This was a reflection-based power. The monster mimicked his every move. If he attacked, it would hit back in the same way. Then he heard his mother cry out in pain. He turned around. Her knee was bleeding. She was worried about him, but he only cared about her healing ability. He lifted his shirt to show his wounds. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. His abs were well defined. Jivachad DNA activated. Now he understood. If he wanted to keep his mother safe, he had to take this thing down. He faced her. Hide. I've got this. His mother looked terrified, but he turned and spoke with confidence. He was a public servant protecting civilians. He'd handle this quickly and be back in no time. He lunged at the monster, grabbed it, and tossed it off the mountaintop, going down with it. His mother screamed as crows flew into the sky. Morrow found a higher ledge while the creature fell below. He got back up, his body sore but healing slowly. Right now, he needed to keep the demon away from his mom. If he could stall long enough, the mountain team would show up to sort things out. But the two agents just arriving from HQ ran into something way worse. It wasn't just one level 5 creature. There were a bunch invading. A swarm of monsters stood there, and one agent looked around, confused by how similar they all were. The bald agent mumbled that the mountain leader had a duplication power, meaning she had been replicated. He knew he had to take out the original body. The tricky part was figuring out which one it was. The other agent, totally unfazed, just grinned and said it didn't matter. He just needed to wipe them all out. He charged ahead and punched the ground, sending a shockwave that knocked the creatures back. The bald agent sighed, thinking his partner was really foolish, but he was sure of one thing. From how the clones were fighting, the original wasn't around. It was clearly the one absorbing yellow dust, just below Maru. Maru realized this thing was regenerating just as fast as he was. The issue was he was starting to wear out from all the healing. Then a voice called out, "What's wrong, Maru?" His stomach dropped. The demon had mimicked his mom's voice. Maru snapped, telling it to stop. He shouted and threw knives at it, but his aim was awful. He muttered that controlling someone else's power wasn't as simple as it looked. Meanwhile, the creature calmly created a crystal and shot it right into his shoulder. That just made him even angrier. This time, he unleashed a full barrage of knives. One struck the monster's shoulder directly. Maru cheered, but then the creature grunted, shook itself, and quickly healed up. Maru felt a wave of disappointment. They had the same attack, but the monster recovered way faster than he did. That meant it was weaker than him. Then he suddenly remembered something important. It was definitely that chat with Kang Channa. She had told him before, "I feel like you never really listened to me." Lying on the ground bleeding, Maru muttered that maybe he wasn't cut out for this. But she had reached out, helped him up, and said, "You're just afraid of getting hurt." He needed to realize that wounds healed in the yellow mist, so it wasn't a big deal. Was the pain real? Yeah, but that was just part of it. Plus, he had to eat those damn demons to heal. She had been squeezing his hand while saying that, and he asked if there was a better way to fight. Kang thought for a second before answering. To take down a monster like this, you need to chop off its head and stop it from sucking up yellow dust. Since he didn't have any offensive skills, he could only support. But on the flip side, he had the best healing ability. That meant he shouldn't be scared to face monsters directly. Back in the moment, Maru smiled. If his ability was the best, then he wasn't going to be afraid anymore. Plus, thanks to gluttony, he had more than enough power to take this thing down. The issue? He still couldn't aim right. Hitting the neck accurately would be tough. Meanwhile, the monster kept taunting him in his mother's voice. "What's wrong, Maru?" At that moment, Maru made up his mind. With no aim, he had to try something else. He tossed another crystal at the demon. It dodged the throw, but when it looked up again, Maru's was already in the air, charging at it. The creature couldn't react in time. It let out a yellow mist, trying to block him, but it clamped down on his knife, halting the attack. Then it grabbed him by the throat. The monster leaned in close and asked why he fought like that. Then it slammed against a rock and hurled them both to the mountaintop, crashing him into the ground. Maru was struggling to breathe. He couldn't activate gluttony, but you haven't bitten this thing. What's the issue? The demon wasn't close enough yet. Then it sank its teeth into his neck first. Unable to bite back, Maru yanked a knife from his back and stabbed the creature instead. Blood gushed from his wound. He tried to stop the bleeding, but the monster just watched him. Then he felt dizzy. His vision started to fade. His wound wasn't healing. Had the monkey copied his ability to stop healing? Looking at the blood pool, he realized he didn't know how much time he had left. If he messed up here, what would happen? Then he recalled another moment. Another chat with Kang Channa. She sighed and asked, "How many times are you going to pass out?" Ian explained it was a panic attack. He couldn't handle it. His chest felt tight, his mind went blank, and all he sensed was the feeling of dying. Her reply? That's exactly why you need to toughen up. At this rate, the next time you think you're about to die, you really might. You're the last hope for everyone else. If you're weak, they won't make it. Right now, Giga Chad's mom was nearby calling for him. Somehow Maru was still alive, clutching his bleeding neck. But his face looked terrible. He picked up a crystal. The monkey mimicked him, Maru recalled Kang's words. Even if it meant going down, he had to take this monster with him. He bit his lip, furious. Then he yelled and charged straight at the demon. The monster crouched, dodging and jabbed his ribs. But Maru had thrown his dagger up. The creature asked, "What are you trying to do?" Maru grabbed it and roared. Every crystal he had thrown so far zoomed toward them. The monster froze and got hit by all of them. Actually, they both did. But at least, the last knife he threw from above came down and cleanly took off the creature's head. Its limbs came off, its body fell apart. Maru, tremblesing, stumbled back and fell. At headquarters, the agents watched the monster break apart and wondered if they had taken down the original. The bald guy said no. Someone else had killed it. Back on the mountain, Maru's wounds were healing slowly, but he truly felt like he had come close to death. Then he stood up, ready to search for his mom. But he heard his dad's voice whispering to him, telling him to eat. His dad pointed at the monster's remains. Go back and eat it. Maru finally got it. That crazy old man had known all along. The monster had a unique and powerful ability. If he ate it, he could gain another power, and he recalled Go Duckman's prophecy about creatures raining from the sky in a year. Driven by the need to be strong enough to protect his mom, he walked up to the demon and grabbed its arm. That's when he started his daily meal. Feeling a bit unsure but determined, he announced that from now on he would eat any strong demon he came across. He even licked his lips. Later on, his mom woke up in the hospital, asking if she really passed out on the mountain. She didn't seem too worried, saying she didn't remember much. Maru was glad she didn't recall. Theoretically, she should have remembered, since the monster was right in front of her. Stelly showed her a news report about everything that went down on the mountain and told her to avoid dangerous situations from now on. His mom then mentioned hearing rumors about someone who looked like his dad being spotted on the mountain, which is why she went to check it out. That's when Maru started connecting the dots. His dad had also vanished on a mountain. Maybe it was related to the demons. A memory came back. He was in the forest, looking up, pale with fear, drooling, barely hanging on. His dad's arm was being eaten. This was the first time he ever remembered something like that. Then, panic set in. But Giga Chad's mom snapped him back to reality, asking why he looked so pale. Yeah, working for the government was really draining. Still a bit shaky, he told her not to worry. He was getting used to it. Back at work, someone called out. It was Officer Maruhan. He'd been laying low, but now he awkwardly stepped up to greet everyone. June quickly asked what happened yesterday and why he vanished without a word. Sion Wu rolled his eyes. Isn't it obvious? The coward got scared and took off. Instead of explaining he left to help his mom, Maru just said he was sorry. Meanwhile, Kang Chun-ae, who seemed to get more gorgeous every day, casually mentioned he was sick, so I gave him the day off. Maru blinked. Why was she covering for him? She just stared at him like she was saying, "Don't say a word." Ju Huan sighed and said Kang should have told them about that. Kang apologized, but Ju Huan wasn't letting it go. You can't just say sorry after messing up like that. Before things got heated, the alarm went off. Kang quickly started putting on her gear. She said she was heading out to take down a level 2 demon. Then out of nowhere, Maru excitedly shouted, "I'm going too." The whole room went quiet. A bit later, they were hiking up the mountain. On the way, Maru apologized for making her take the heat for his mistake. Kang shrugged. She said she knew he left because she was too hard on him, so it was okay. But why did you come back? Maru was already sweating and out of breath, and they were only halfway up. Still, he managed to answer he was here to fight now. Just then, yellow dust kicked up. A huge chunky creature appeared in the distance. The ground trembled. The monster charged right at them. There was this big, gray, fat old guy shouting that he was ready to fight. Kang Chano warned them not to underestimate it, even if it was only level 2. After all, a whole mountain team had been taken out by a level 5 demon. Maru knew exactly which one it was, the one he had defeated yesterday. Then, Yoseok, the TikToker, casually said those guys were lucky HQ dealt with the monster. The main branch only had users level 7 and up. That meant they were on a totally different level. Maru froze. Should he say something? Should he admit he was the one who actually killed it? The issue was he had left early yesterday. He'd have to explain a lot, but he wanted some credit. He wanted them to see he put in the effort too. But before he could speak up, Kang asked, "What's that demon doing?" The creature had its hands under its arms, scratching its pits, someone shouted for them to back off. Maru suddenly stepped up and said, "No need. I'll take care of this." Kang looked genuinely shocked. Since when does a level 1 think they can take on a level 2? Maru pointed at himself. That level 1 user is me. He faced the demon and slicked back his hair. Time to show how much he had grown since taking down that monster on the mountain. He copied the monster's moves, scratching his pits. "I'm not a useless member of this team anymore." A terrible smell filled the air. The monster groaned, then screamed and took off. "That's my power." Even Maru was grossed out by what he did. Still, he charged in for a fistfight. "I'm not backing down to trash like this." He landed punches in its gut, causing it to stagger. Meanwhile, Yoshio covered his nose, saying this wasn't a real fight. This was chemical warfare. Kainchana felt dizzy and could barely stand. How could a level 7 be hit this hard? Naruto kept flailing his arms, stuck in a wild slap fight with the monster. The creature cried out, realizing its own power was backfiring. It vomited, fell over, and passed out. Maru turned to the others, grinning. "I won't write." They didn't seem impressed. Later, they all cleaned up in the river. Kainchana, sitting close by, kept watching Maru. Then she asked, "So you really can't absorb demon powers through gluttony?" Maru nodded, explaining that the last demon he ate could reflect attacks. Yoshio teased him. "Oh, so that's what your big speech was about." All that build-up for this, Maru felt a bit embarrassed. But Kang just shrugged. "It doesn't matter. You did great. You're getting better." Maru blushed, until she spoiled the moment by saying, "But honestly, it's still gross to eat those things." So embarrassing. They left right after, saying they had to look for more demons. Maru sat there thinking, why did I end up with that monster? Why can't I ever look cool? Then someone showed up behind him. "Are you Maruhan?" Maru froze, hiding his face. "Who are you?" "It was Zhang. You only had one question." "Did you take down the level 5 demon on the mountain?" It was really odd since Maru was just a level 1 user. Feeling awkward, Maru said yes. Zhang smiled. "I'm here to take you to HQ in Seoul." Maru blinked. "Wait, is this a promotion?" Yang just asked, "You know what HQ is, right?" Maru nodded. As far as he knew, it was where the top people worked. So why was he being taken there? Zhang still smiled like a K-drama character. "Because I see talent when it's there." Seriously, the artist should spend less time on this guy and focus on the ones we actually care about. Back at HQ, Yu Young was asking the director why he postponed the meeting. He said a new recruit had caught his eye. She quickly asked if he meant his son, the kid named Sion Wu. "Oh, so that's why I disliked that guy the moment I saw him. He's a nepotism hire." The director mentioned the kid hadn't talked to him since the divorce, but the one he was interested in wasn't him. It was another new recruit. Yu Young raised an eyebrow. "You think the sudden rise of high-level demons is connected to this recruit?" He nodded. "I have a hunch. Keep an eye on Ganghwa Island." The scene switched to another portal of yellow dust. Inside, what seemed like a house, a small, twisted creature lurked in the shadows. It looked like a sickly, mutated gremlin. Back at the police station, Mario was grinning like a fool. Super excited he got invited to work at headquarters. This was a big deal. Then reality hit him. If they were calling him in, it meant things were even riskier than here. He had to keep safety in mind. Right now, he was in a nice, calm workplace. Still, it felt great to be noticed by someone at the top. At that moment, Sion Wu was glaring at him from across the room. "Why have you been walking around with that dumb smile all day?" It was clear how much this arrogant jerk hated seeing a level 1 weakling enjoying an easy life in the office. But RV stood his ground. "You're the one who's incompetent. You wanted to work at HQ, but you're not there, so you can't say anything." Sun Wu's expression darkened. He stood up, fuming. "Say that again." Like he was going to sit there and take moral lessons from someone who has the charm of stinky armpits. Maru froze. Who the heck leaked that info? He looked around just as Yoshio started tapping away at his computer, acting all busy. Maru instantly got it. It was that jerk. Fueled by rage, he charged at him. Yosuke took off running for his life. Meanwhile, Go Deok Min was cracking up, and Juhwan told everyone to cut it out with the bullying. Maru let out a sigh of relief, thinking, "Juhwan, you really are a good person." Then she clapped her hands and said, "At least you're not hiding in the bathroom anymore. Now you just smell a bit. That's an improvement." Maru felt like he was dying of embarrassment. It just wouldn't stop. To make matters worse, he couldn't stand how Kang just didn't care about anything. Even after he helped her that day, he still felt useless here. He glanced at Joan's contact info. Zhang had told him to text when he made a choice. Then Kang got up and said a level 2 creature had shown up. Right then, Sang-woo grabbed her arm and said, "I'm going this time." He was so bored in his office he felt like he might explode if he stayed any longer. Then he turned to Maru and said, "You're coming too. We need to work on team bonding." On the way to the mountain, the two of them were sweating under the scorching sun as they climbed. But when it came to hunting monsters, Wu was more pumped than we were when we first saw Kangchana. Maru, however, didn't want to be next to the psycho for another second. He just wanted to finish this job and head home. Then Wu stopped and said, "This won't be as easy as you think." Maru followed his gaze. The whole house ahead was covered in yellow dust. Maru figured there had to be more than one person inside, but Xiaomu ignored him, walked ahead, and told him to hurry up. The gate creaked open, and Maru hesitated at the edge. Something felt off. There was way too much yellow dust inside. It was enough for a level 4 creature. They stepped inside, and Maru whispered they should turn back. These things can pop up out of nowhere. But Wu kept moving, and soon they reached a green door. Maru realized the monster was right behind it. Wu turned the handle, but it was locked. Maru stepped in front of him. "This is risky. We have no idea what's in there." But Wu had already put on his gloves. "If you don't want to open it, I'll just break it." He twists his pinky to try and open it. Maru gets startled, but nothing happens. He's confused while Maru tells him to stop pretending to be confident when he can't even unlock it. Wu then leans in to peek through the keyhole. In the back of the room, you can see a scrawny little devil. The protagonist pushed him aside, eager to take a look too. Spotting it in the corner, he said it looked weak. But the guy warned that judging by the dust, this creature was at least level 7 or higher. Scared, our boy wants to know why something that strong is on this island. Wu replies he has no clue, but now he gets why his heart was racing. For a long time, he's been itching to fight a real strong monster. Our boy took off running, saying Lunatic would put their lives at risk, so they should call headquarters right away. But when he turned the lock, it wouldn't budge. He started slamming his shoulder against it, asking why they couldn't leave the way they came. That's when it hits him that this must be the demon hiding in the room. Meanwhile, Wu is kicking and punching the door, yelling at the recluse to come out and fight. On the flip side, Maru wants to avoid that demon at all costs, especially since it's a level 7 hikikomori. The blackhead just stood there, then suddenly started rambling about feeling lonely. He kept repeating lonely, lonely, while his face twisted. Wu notices that his hand is completely broken, yet the door is totally fine. What the heck is this thing made of? Meanwhile, Maru is smashing a chair against the window, but sadly, that's not working either. Looks like that lonely creature's power is turning this place into a trap. At that moment, his heart starts racing. This situation triggers a panic attack, and he wonders if the office crew will show up soon. After 2 hours, he's fuming, unsure if those idiots just forgot about them. In the office, Diepman is shouting that there's a problem. Joe looks around and realizes they completely forgot about the training date in Busan. Everyone starts rifling through files and working, claiming they're about to sort it out. Kangchana bangs on the keyboard, jumps up, grabs the file, and hands it to the guy. He thanks everyone for their hard work and says they'll see them tomorrow. Johan plops down on the couch and suggests they enjoy some coffee and chill after all this. Everyone takes a moment to relax. That's when they start wondering where those two have been for the last 3 hours. She facepalms, saying this is exactly why you shouldn't send a rookie out alone. Oddly, she calls them on TikTok and tells Kangchana and another guy to stay put. Thank goodness. As stunning as ever, she thanks the artists for their extra effort, then gets up, saying she has a bad feeling and needs to go. She walks past Jiwon, who warns her that this place is really close to that other spot. So is she really going on her own? The girl seems to have some trauma. She just stands up and tells them to hurry. If I had to bet $1 trillion, I'd say her family was taken out by demons, which is why she's so hell-bent on hunting them down. The scene shifts to the house, where everyone is inside, asking where the two are. Through the dust, they spot a shadow coming closer. It was the desperate fools yelling at them not to let the door shut, but it was too late. The door slammed shut right in their faces, and the fools wondered why they had barged in. Ju-1, already slumped on the floor, asks what happened. They explain the situation while standing by the door. They realize the demon isn't planning to leave. That's when Kang tells everyone to back off, pulls a small arm from her body, and forms a katana. She swings at it, but of course nothing happens. Yu Seok is freaked out that even her attack didn't leave a mark. Ju Hwan tells them to hang on because she'll take care of it. She rolls up her jacket sleeve to show a small black orb on her arm. A tiny spider pops out, and guess what? Her ability is called Demon Spider. She tells Minnie to go in, but the lock is too small for her chubby spider, so it doesn't work. Our guy watches her comfort the spider and thinks she's the weirdest one so far. Sunwoo then tells TikTok to do something instead of just standing there, but he says he has no powers. Maru seizes the chance to tease him, saying he seems totally useless in a fight, but the boy fires back that Maru is the useless one. Where are all those powers he's been soaking up? Why doesn't he use the needle power to unlock everything? Our protagonist explains that the creature is too far away, he can't see it well, and his powers don't reach that far. At that moment, it felt like everyone was useless. Seon-woo asks who's going to save them if no one else is in the office. Ji-won says the leader won't because he left for training and won't be back until tomorrow. Then Yosik reminds them that Kim Yi is still nearby. The old guy with glasses suddenly shows up, scaring everyone. They ask when he got there, and he replies he came because no one had returned yet. Everyone is shocked that this weird guy has zero presence, making it hard to notice when he arrives. He walks up to the lock to check it out, and Ju-won asks if he can handle it. Suddenly, he lies down on the floor and starts napping. Margaret thinks either this guy is super chill or has some strange ability. Ju-won explains she has no clue what his ability is because she's never seen him use it. The people are heartbroken. Everyone who tried to help them has been useless. Jo-won claps her hands, urging everyone to focus and find a way out together. But Si-hoon reminds her they've already tried everything, so there's no escape. She asks if he's really okay with dying without doing anything. TikTok suggests waiting for the leader, while our guy nervously bites his nails. In the background, he wonders why Kang is just standing there doing nothing. It feels off. Yosuk wants to know why the demon isn't making a move against them. Suddenly, a tremor shakes everyone. Kang bolts, saying the noise came from the main room. She opens the door, peeks inside, and sees the whole room shifting. The walls and ceiling are collapsing, and the house seems to be getting smaller. Seon-woo then points out that the purpose of that lonely Hakisha is clear now. It'll keep shrinking until the house is just a single room. Maru realizes that since they can't break the walls, they're going to get crushed. No one knows what to do, and our guy is desperate for a solution. Then we flash back 4 years to 2 women picking plants. A younger, cuter Kang shows up, greeting them with a cheerful hi, and then what seems to be her sister runs over to hug her. A happy family in the mountains, but we know this won't end well. The two were really close, reminiscing about growing up with their grandma. Kang spots a drawing on the wall and tells her to stop, or she'll get in trouble. But her sister says it's their happy family portrait. The drawing is on the wall that's now shrinking. It was in the house she grew up in, and at that moment, she activated her mummy powers, pulled out a huge sword and slashed at the wall. But the place kept shrinking, and her sword began to crack. She realized she needed to use more blood, and things were getting serious. She was completely wrapped in bandages. Her neck was already turning gray, and Ju-won yelled for her to stop because it was getting dangerous. That's when Maru rushed in and pulled her out, breaking the sword. She looked heartbroken and cried as she saw everything fade away. Just in time, Maru pulled her out of that room. The girl seemed to have passed out, and Ji-won tried to wake her. Our main character realized she fainted from losing too much blood. What he couldn't figure out was why she went to such lengths for just a wall. That's when Sim-woo revealed this house belonged to Kang's grandma, and she lost both her grandma and younger brother here. She barely made it on her own, and that's when she got her powers. Maru now understood her fear and why she acted that way. Yeo Seok mentioned that for now, the house had stopped shrinking. They needed to find a way out soon before they ran out of rooms. Seeing the small chunk Kang ripped from the wall, Jo-won quoted, "Soft water on hard stone keeps hitting until it breaks." Later, the sounds of fighting echoed through the forest. There was Sung-woo, who managed to carve a tiny hole with his knife after countless strikes. Everyone was out of energy and couldn't do anything else. A knife landed on Amaru's lap, and Sung-woo said it was his turn now. He stood up, his arm still hurt, and he was dying of thirst. But just as he was about to start, Kang grabbed the knife from him and said she'd take over. He told her to rest a bit longer, but she insisted she was okay. She walked over to the wall and began scraping. Our guy mentioned he heard this was her grandmother's house. He found it odd that such an abandoned place was so tidy, so she must have been keeping it up. She said it was because she was waiting for the demon that killed her family to return. Maru was confused about how she knew the creature would come back. She explained that the demon from back then was totally different. A creature with a feminine shape came out of the gate. At that moment, she was so scared she couldn't move. When she looked to the side, another one was coming closer. This one had a masculine build, stared at her, and seemed aware and intelligent. It had a purpose beyond just killing. She knew that if the prophecy came true, that creature would show up again. Now he gets why she's on this island's team even though she's just a level 7 user. She wonders if he's let down by her typical reason, But Maru says not at all. He's stuck here because he couldn't get away, plus the pay is good. She keeps banging on the wall, saying if that's true, he'll be in Seoul soon since the pay there is even better. He asks how she knows that, and she tells him she saw Jong chatting with him that day. Just as she's about to say why she thinks he'll do great, the whole place starts shaking again. Everyone's yelling for them to head to the hallway and get out. While escaping, Maru wonders what she was going to say. The next morning, the house has shrunk by half. Everyone feels worn out, questioning if this will ever end. Yoo Seok says their only shot at getting out alive is the leader, but where is he? Meanwhile, Kim Yoo-bak is still sound asleep. Our guy is getting frustrated, saying while everyone is struggling, that dude is still asleep. That's when everything starts shaking again, and he insists they need to get Kim Yi out of the hallway. But the guy stands up covered in fungi, looking like a ghost. Everyone asks what's up with him, and he says he thinks now's the perfect moment. Suddenly, the door swings open and the creature rushes out, frantic and covered in fungus. Everyone shakes Kim Yi awake, demanding to know what he did. He explains he has the mold fungus demon, but it takes a while to spread. Everyone starts clapping and praising him, saying he did an awesome job while he just looks embarrassed. But Zeon-woo and Kang remind them to stay alert, because they haven't won yet. The demon stood there crying until something appeared from its back. A whole bunch of creatures popped out, staring at them. Turns out the lonely one wasn't so lonely after all. That's what Maru thought as they all jumped to attack. A weird red thread was stretching from its back. Kang told Yoo Seok to hide everyone. He then activated his zero presence ability, which was kind of like being invisible. Kang kept moving forward, slicing through the demons. The issue was that the hallway was too tight, and her sword kept getting stuck in the walls. Right after that, the creature started crawling up her sword. Just when she thought it was about to attack, our guy went straight for a bite at its neck. While he was being eaten, he reached up and clenched his fist. The ceiling began to lower, and TikToker yelled that they were all doomed. But our guy said no. He showed off his mirror ability. With that, he raised his arms and ordered the ceiling to stop. His friend cheered him on, but the demons kept attacking. Then one of their heads exploded because Sang-woo had broken a pinky. They even told our guy to stay behind the barrier since he was just a level 1. Maru was about to warn him to be careful, but it was too late. He got bitten on the shoulder, arm, and stomach, with a bunch of creatures climbing on him. Then suddenly, something huge and white stabbed through the monsters. Jiwon's little spider had grown massive. She had her eyes shut, seemingly controlling the creature. Meanwhile, Kang was cutting through the monsters, and Seon-woo was smashing them one by one. Inside the barrier, Seon-woo and our guy were exchanging glances. They started teasing each other, complimenting their friends, and saying they really put in the effort, making fools of themselves in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Ju-woo wondered why creatures kept spilling out of that room. As soon as our guy heard that, he sprinted off, saying he'd take care of it. He asked them to clear a path, and Kang and Samamu obliged. He managed to slip past the monsters and fell into the room. Hidden among all the Smeagol's, the real one was crouched there. He realized this jerk was only using clones to fight. Every time something hit its head, a new one popped up. So Maru raised his arms and said that if that was the case, he'd bring the ceiling down, and the thing could stay right there. As soon as he did that, he tried to run for the exit, but his power was working too well, and the ceiling was coming down way too fast. He saw his friends reaching out for help and barely got pulled to safety in time. Outside, everyone was celebrating. People were praising his mirror ability, saying it was truly amazing. Meanwhile, Kang looked to the side, remembering the moments she had there with her grandmother and brother. Maru noticed and turned off his mirror ability since it wasn't needed anymore, with the creature gone. He stared at the creature on the ground and went in to eat it, while everyone else wondered what he was up to. Having already eaten one monster, he knew he had to act fast to make the most of the yellow dust still floating around. So, he activated the creature's power and began pushing the walls. The catch was that using the power drained the dust, and soon he couldn't move them anymore. Ping grabbed his arm, reassured him it was fine, and thanked him. At least what he managed to fix was enough for the drawing to show up again. Back at the office, Deepman came in all excited, saying something good was happening today. That's when he realized the place was empty. He had gone through the trouble of getting the best bread from Busan. So where was everyone? He glanced toward the break room, wondering if those kids were still knocked out in the morning. Just then, he got a call from John asking what was going on. John quickly mentioned he called Maru to headquarters, but Maru turned him down, and he wanted to know why. Diokman looked over and saw the girls sleeping, looking beautiful and peaceful. Meanwhile, our guy was there, all sweaty and smelly. His life wasn't perfect yet, but he was getting used to the team. The scene cuts, and our guy is getting completely ripped in half. Someone yells at him to run, but now we're going back 7 hours. Now that's what I call a spoiler, folks. Our guy was dying of sleep, grumbling that when he was job hunting, he never thought making money would be this tough. He was still wiped out from the fight with the demon. Then he heard a car zooming by, and of course, it was a Porsche. Naturally, it was Xianwu, that filthy rich millionaire, and our guy, as bold as ever, walks up asking for a ride. But Xianwu just sped off without a word. A TikToker suddenly appears, commenting on how jealous he is of that guy who even has an imported car. But it was kind of odd for a public servant to drive something like that to work. Maru agreed, saying in the end, the guy is just strange. Then Yoseok said that no matter how handsome, rich, or tall the guy is, it doesn't matter because he has a terrible personality and probably no friends. They both laughed, but Maru started thinking he doesn't have any of that either, so he's losing in every way. In the next scene, they show up at the office, looking wiped out. Diekman spreads his arms, calling our guy an awesome level 7 ability user. He's puzzled, pushing the boss away while trying to understand what they mean. That's when Ju-1 explains that if he ate a level 7 creature and took its powers, then he's now level 7. Meanwhile, someone gives him a pat on the back, saying they always thought he was just dead weight, but now he's finally useful. Our guy blushes, realizing how nice it feels to get recognition from the team. Then Yoseok chimes in, saying his talent is actually amazing. It's the first time he's seen someone who just keeps getting stronger. Out of nowhere, Sung-woo bangs on the table. He says the workday has started, so they need to cut chit-chat. Our poor guy realizes this jerk hates him for no reason. Just because he was embarrassed for being level 1, now he has to pay for it. Just then, Miss Gorgeous taps his shoulder and asks if they can chat for a minute. Outside, sitting on a bench, he asks what's going on. She says she just wanted to thank him for what happened at her grandma's place yesterday. He awkwardly scratches his head, saying they're a team, so it was only natural. But suddenly, she turns and says that after that incident, she's sure about her feelings for him. Our guy blushes hard, wondering what she's about to say. Then she says she knows he's not a level 1 ability user. What a bummer. He thought it would be something good. He asks her to explain, and she says there's no way he could have bounced back so well with level 1 power. He remembers the chubby creature he first bit, and is sure that one was level 1. But then Kang asks if he happened to encounter another demon before starting here. He thinks for a second, saying there's no way he'd forget something that big, and that's when he notices smoke behind her. Panic sets in, and a black claw appears. A humanoid wolf glares at him, drooling, and his heart starts racing. He drops his can, and she asks what's wrong. He tells her not to worry. It's just that sometimes his mind conjures up scary stuff. But she calls him out, grabs his hand, and reassures him that he's safe with her. I wish I felt safe too. Now she's certain there's something in his past. That's when Dukman shows up, asking if they're done with their little date. Flustered, he insists they're not that close. Kang casually points out that in a year there'll be rain and demons, so relationships at home make sense. She's not even thinking about that. Her words hit him harder than a level 10 demon attack. That was a tough blow. Now he's just slumped over on the bench. Diokman teases him, and he tries to defend himself, saying he already explained it. It's not like that. But honestly, those words did make him sad, right? After a bit, Ju-hwan suggests they check the alerts before leaving. Meanwhile, Kang and our guy are hiking up the mountains. Ever since that bench talk, he feels strange around her. Kang reaches the meter and starts jotting down notes on the yellow dust. Maru, on the other hand, is convinced he doesn't have time for relationships since everything's ending in a year. Both are lost in thought about how to deal with these demons when suddenly the phone rings. It's a distress call from Zone 3, and it's Yoseok on the line. He says Leader Diapin has been defeated and that the creature is on its way. He warns them to watch their words, and then the call suddenly cuts out. Kang says this is worrying. Diapman is a level 10 user and he got defeated. Maru, however, is stunned. That lazy guy is a level 10 user? The yellow dust starts to show up, and she warns him to be careful. The demon approaching was unlike any they had faced before. Its shape appears, they brace themselves, and then a thin creature in a kimono steps out. The monster blinks one eye, catching them off guard. It greets them, saying it's nice to meet humans, and asks if they can chat for a bit. It says it wants to chat with the one in charge here. Maru is shocked. Not only can this thing talk, but it sounds just like a person. Kang tells him to stay sharp, but the monster asks them not to act hostile. It insists it doesn't want to fight, it's just here for a chat. Maru doesn't get what kind of chat it means, but he recalls Yosu warning them not to engage with the creature. Yeah, ignoring that warning, Maru thinks this could be a good chance to learn something, so he asks where the creature's from. It says it hails from Naraka. Maru has no clue where that is, so the demon explains it's the deepest part of hell. Those who did terrible things in life are trapped there, stuck in endless darkness, forced to fight forever. Maru starts to connect the dots and asks if that means every demon here was once human. He suddenly remembers eating those creatures, realizing he's been eating people. He starts throwing up right away. The demon then says it's its turn to ask a question. Maru shivers for a moment, but Kang grabs his arm and tells him to stop talking. Even if the demon seems nice, she knows it's the one that took down their leader. She's already got a huge spear ready, but the demon tells her to hold on, saying it doesn't like violence. She doesn't hesitate, though, and charges at it. It grins and warns her that killing it won't bring her brother back. She freezes in shock as it easily deflects her spear with just a finger. Then it tells her it was her fault for being weak and letting her brother die. That's when a memory rushes back, the moment her brother stepped in front to protect her, and he looked a lot like Maru. With his chest pierced, he told her to run before collapsing into her arms. She sobbed uncontrollably. Now back in the present, she has no idea how this creature knows that. The demon says that as his older sister, it was her job to protect him, but still the little boy ended up dying. Maru shouts for Kang and rushes to catch her. But seriously, where's all this blood coming from? He didn't even notice what was going on. Maru realizes this thing can mess with people's minds, and they're in big trouble because our main character is in a fragile state. The demon suggests they keep chatting and ignore the weak human, but Maru refuses and tells the monster to shut up. Then he charges at the demon, saying it can't talk about her like that. He lands a punch right on its head, slamming it into a rock. The demon is still adjusting its teeth when Maru goes in for another hit. Then the monster suddenly laughs, pointing out Maru's acting strange. Didn't he just get turned down by her? Out of nowhere, Maru freezes. Like something just pierced his heart. He stutters. That doesn't add up. He's never faced rejection before. That shouldn't bother him. So why is he feeling so lightheaded? He doesn't have any romantic feelings for her. He just thinks she's a strong and impressive senior. Meanwhile, she's still on the ground, saying sorry. For a second, he hesitates, but then the pain in his chest intensifies and he coughs up blood. The demon picks up a rock, claiming it hates feelings because they're for the weak. Even when it was human, it never felt anything like that. It steps closer to Maru and asks why he's so quiet. Did a cat take his voice? Now Maru finally gets why even a level 10 user can't beat this thing. The demon throws the rock into the air, saying it's time to finish this since the boy can't even talk. As the rock falls to crush him, Maru thinks unless someone cold-hearted shows up, he's done for. The rock is about to smash him when suddenly the demon's body twists violently. The emotionless jerk finally shows up, asking why level 1 is lying on the ground. Our boy grins, saying he's never been happier to see a sociopath. But the guy is already annoyed, asking why this idiot is grinning at him out of nowhere. Shampoo hears the demon mumble that it actually felt a bit funny. The creature tilts its head, claiming its vocal cords are tough to break, especially at their low level. Now was hitting their egos and both were itching to take down this loudmouth. They faced off against the monster, and our boy warned Sun Wu to be careful since that jerk used mind games. But Xian Wu just told him to watch and showed him how to deal with it. Our boy was clearly furious and wanted to take this jerk out himself, but he had no choice. They had to handle this. Xian Wu broke another finger, and with that, a part of the demon's body shattered. The demon quickly took the chance to mock him. If that was all he had, he'd never get his dad's approval. But nothing changed. Xian Wu just kept breaking fingers and attacking the monster. The creature laughed, saying, this guy was emotionless, just like him. That's what happens when you're the son of a woman who took her own life after. Her husband ditched her. Wow, now we get King Xiangwu's tragic backstory, revealing why he's so messed up. Clearly, Maru had no clue about this. He thought the guy was just some spoiled rich brat. Even someone as cold as him wouldn't handle a psychological attack like that. But then, Maru froze. Xian was laughing. The jerk asked what that had to do with anything. It wasn't his fault. It was his mom's for being too weak. Then he hit the demon's neck, saying that in this world, only the strong survive. The monster smirked, saying if that's true, then Xian Wu wouldn't last long since he was way weaker than Hanmaru. Now that psychological attack actually worked. But our boy jumped in and blocked the strike, saying he figured out the pattern. The monster disorients people with mind games and then shoots a blade from its mouth. Just then, Kang swooped in and cut off the creature's tongue, making it writhe in agony. She asked if Maru was all right, and our guy was smitten, thinking he was just amazing. I'm right there with him, falling for her like a total fool. But he shook it off, telling himself to stay focused on the fight. He grabbed Sion Woo and shook him, trying to snap him out of his trance. But man, that jab about being weaker than Han Maru really hit him hard. On the flip side, our guy felt proud that someone like Sion Woo was jealous of him. But then he stepped on the guy and told him to get over it. It wasn't the end of the world to be worse than him. He might be super cool, but for now, Sion Woo was still cooler. Suddenly, Sion Woo snapped back and scoffed, saying, obviously. After all, you're still a low-level loser. The three of them then turned to face the boss, knowing they had to take it down before night fell. Otherwise, they'd be in trouble. Maru wondered how they were supposed to pull that off. If he got too close, the monster would use its tongue. But Kang said this was the perfect moment since it couldn't talk right now. However, Sion Woo quickly disagreed, saying she wasn't fit to fight. The wound on her chest wasn't healing. At that moment, Maru dashed to the side, thinking he needed a plan to deal with this monster. He started waving his arms, calling the monster an idiot, and telling it he was right there. The creature turned to him. That was the chance he had been waiting for. He told Sion Woo to look after Kang while he used the new power he had gained. But his friend was confused since his power only worked in closed spaces. Kang yelled at Sion Woo to help Maru before he got himself killed doing something reckless. Meanwhile, our guy was running for his life, with the monster right behind him, its tongue whipping around. He was scanning for an enclosed space, but sadly there were no buildings nearby. Just as he was trying to figure things out, a car sped past him. There was Xian Wu, who slammed on the brakes and told him to hop in. Without thinking twice, Maru jumped toward the car, mad that this jerk was risking such an expensive ride. Classic rich kid move. Our guy was totally envious of that billionaire. He jumped in through the sunroof, already opening the door as the monster closed in. Maru yelled for Sion Woo to get in while the creature lunged at the car, but it turned out to be a trap. The monster lunged inside and Sion Woo managed to lock it in. He told Maru the plan was working. Maru was ready to jump out again, thinking everything was good to go. Then, the scene from earlier played out, and our guy was sliced into 36 pieces. The monster smirked as it crawled out of the car, pleased it had taken him out. But then, a hand grabbed its neck. The creature turned around and realized it was Maru. That's when we see what really went down. As soon as he got in the car, Maru activated his clone ability. Now, multiple Maris were attacking the monster, pulling it from all sides and dragging it back inside while tearing into it. The monster screamed in pain, frantically looking for the real Maru, who was hiding in the back. Sunwoo was banging on the window, asking why the guy wasn't getting out. Then Kang showed up, wondering where Maru was. As it was being devoured, the monster gasped that this was unnecessary. They could just sit down and chat. Or was Maru just as violent as his dad? Then a psychological attack hit him. Maru was suddenly pulled into a memory, tears welling up in his eyes. His dad was lifting him by the collar, yelling at him to stop. Stop what? The monster asked him how he felt when his dad vanished without a word. Maru didn't want to hear any of this. He covered his ears to drown it out. With blood streaming from his ears, he told the monster to quit messing with people's feelings. The creature was moving its mouth, trying to get him to read its lips, but he just frowned and said its words didn't matter if he couldn't understand. Them. He clenched his fist and the ceiling started to cave in. Outside, Kang tried to intervene, but Sion Woo held her back, saying there was nothing they could do. The car kept shaking like crazy. Our boy had turned into a red puddle. In that moment, Kang noticed the yellow dust was fading away. The car was totally crushed, and she stepped forward, insisting they had to save Maru. Sion Woo, ready to give up, said the kid had been gone for a while. But Kang argued that as long as there was yellow dust in the air, they could still save him. She ripped apart parts of the car, asking why this idiot crushed himself like that. They heard faint knocking, and Sound Woo jumped in to help, sharing the same question. Meanwhile, our boy was somewhere completely different. He had no clue where he was, and felt like one couldn't even feel his own body. At least he hoped he had taken that loud mouth down. Then, he tried to remember the creature's last mouth movements. It had warned him that the abyss was looking for him, and he needed to remember the call. As he faded out, he wondered what the heck this call was. Suddenly, the monster yelled at him to wake up. His eyes shot open, and he found himself in a red place. His clothes started wriggling, and a hand came out of his stomach. Then that same black furry dog began crawling out of him. Maru, clearly not doing well, asked what the heck that thing was. The monster approached him and asked, "Do you remember?" Flashback. Back when he was a kid, seeing that creature for the first time. The monster stared at him and his dad. Maru, scared, told his dad, "This is strange. We should run." But his dad grabbed him by the collar and said no. From that day on, they were ready to fight. Maru, in tears, pleaded to understand why. That's when his dad explained. They had to get that jerk's special power. He pulled his son along, saying they were off to the abyss. Then he pushed the boy in front of the monster. As it lifted its head, Maru was just moments away from being eaten. Back in the present, Sang-woo was breaking fingers again, using the last of the yellow dust to rip apart the wrecked car. After nearly tearing the whole thing apart from the bottom, there was Maru, covered in blood red, vacuum sealed like a body. "Stained him," Sun-woo said. There was no dust left. He couldn't bounce back. He glanced to the side, knowing the kid had lost all hope. Meanwhile, Kang was holding Maru's hand, asking if he could hear her. Suddenly, his finger moved. That's when they both noticed it. Just like a demon, Maru was making his own yellow dust. His broken bones started spinning, twisting, and realigning, and the kids stood up. They were both terrified. He had almost healed on his own, but then he blacked out and fell face down. They stared at his body, and Seon-woo immediately began stomping on him, demanding to know what he was. Maru, still hanging on, was groaning, confused about why he was being beaten up. Seon-woo yanked him by the collar, yelling, how was he creating his own yellow dust? The only power he had was gluttony, or so he thought. That's when it clicked for Maru. Gluttony wasn't the first power he ever got. It came from that monster. When he was younger, his dad had made him take that creature's ability, and he still didn't know why. And then it hit him. Panic attack. He fell to the ground as Seon-woo asked what was wrong. Kang, the only decent one, told Seon-woo to cut him some slack. He was still getting back on his feet. For now, though, this should stay between the three of them. Seon-woo disagreed, saying it was nuts to let a monster like him roam free. Everyone needed to be informed, even the higher-ups. But Kang replied that Maru didn't even seem to know he had yellow dust. Still, Xiaomu pushed back, what if he turned into a real threat? Kang just said she had faith in Hanmaru. She believed he wouldn't do anything reckless. Xiaomu rolled her eyes at that. Fine, he didn't care what happened to the kid. With that, he walked away. Now Kang realized all the responsibility was on her shoulders. On the train ride home, work was way tougher than Maru expected. He was trying to wrap his head around this gluttony power and that monster. Just then, the monster showed up in the window's reflection, staring right at him. Maru jumped, startled. Yosok, sitting next to him, told him to stop acting strange. Maru grabbed his chest, saying he just saw something weird. Then he asked if Yosiok wanted to hear about his issues. Yosiok immediately said not even a bit. He said it was better if they just kept their distance. Maru sat there, feeling down, realizing no one at work cared about him. Meanwhile, TikToker got a call from a guy named Kim Wooju, who wanted to know why. Scene shifts to a bar, where Kim Wooju was telling someone to leave the Gaia Mountain Group and ask for a transfer. A chubby guy hesitated, but finally agreed. Then he asked, who was that guy sitting next to him? It was our boy, Hanmaru. Even Yu Seok was curious. When did he even get invited? The poor guy said his life was tough too, and he didn't want to be on his own. He looked at Kim Woo-ju and said it was his first time meeting someone from another team, asking why he wanted to leave. Woo-ju explained it was all the fighting and issues there. Yu Seok pointed out, it sounded more like bullying. Our boy then asked if this was the infamous office bullying he had heard about. TikToker agreed, saying Woo-ju was just too nice. He should have stirred up some trouble and then left, just like he did. Maru admitted he didn't know about this since he was from a different group. That's when Woo-ju revealed that Yoseok was the one who got hurt and bullied the most. Now, our boy was feeling uneasy, curious about the people in that group. Yoseok said those guys were more like humans. Even among the public servants dealing with demons, there were folks more dangerous than the targets. Maru recalled Sung-woo saying he could become more dangerous than a monster and started to wonder if he was one of them. On the way home, he was driving the chubby guy, asking if they were almost there. That's when they reached Woo-ju's parents' shop, and he told them to come in. But then his face changed when he saw all of the guy's friends. The poor guy froze, turned around, and bumped right into someone. The 398-meter law-abiding citizen said he came looking for Woo-ju, but hey, he found Yu Seok too. Then, without a second thought, he kicked him in the chest and stomped on his head, saying if he was transferring, he should left quietly. His biggest mistake was setting the place on fire before running. He was really going to town on the guy until our boy grabbed his arm and told him to knock it off. Of course, the guy turned and asked who he thought he was. Our boy, eyes blazing, said he worked with Yu Seok at the office. The guy laughed, saying it sounded like he was from Gangwat Island, where only fools and weirdos ended up. Then, out of nowhere, he punched Maru in the face. Our boy hit the ground, while the guy went right back to kicking the crap out of Yu Seok. Poor Yu Seok had taken more hits from these guys than he did from that demon in the house. Maru got up, hoping no one noticed his nose was bleeding, but there was yellow dust in his mouth. The whole place was turning yellow, and our boy was not happy. Meanwhile, the other guy kept hammering Yu Seok in the face, blaming him for putting him through months of rehab. Man, poor Tuktakar was struggling, crying, and getting wrecked. His so-called friends in the back just stood there, shocked that he'd actually transferred to Gangwa Island. That's when the beast appeared from behind them. The door burst open, the guy turned around, and a huge foot smashed into his face. He slammed his head against the wall and crumpled like a rag doll, leaving everyone wondering who that was. It was Shanwu, and he simply said he was also from Gangwade Island. Then he walked up to Maru and warned him that if he kept screwing around, he'd end up dead. Maru quickly hid the sand and asked what he was even doing there. Xiangwu said he had followed him just in case he caused any trouble. On the train, he noticed that Peng Chana had secretly been tailing Maru, and now she had just shown up at the shop, demanding to know what was happening. She approached the poor, beaten TikToker and asked if he was all right. She told them they were lucky. She was planning to take him out of there. But then the military hunters chimed in, saying friend was half dead too, so she couldn't just leave. The nervous guy mumbled that Xiamenwu had also caused him trouble, so he was here to settle the score. Kang sighed, saying it looked like they wanted another round of discipline. Just as the woman was about to say this time wouldn't end well for them, Musclehead got back up. He glared at Xianwu and declared, "Today, you're gonna die." He charged in for a punch, but Xianwu just grinned and said, "I'm looking forward to it." The fight was about to kick off, and Amaru was standing aside totally unsure of what to do. He was ready to jump in, but Kang told him to stay out of it. If he transformed, things could get messy. He needed to be careful. It looked like she had snagged his shirt as she walked by and adjusted it a bit. Poor Xianwu, now it was his turn to get his butt kicked. The guy rushed in with a chair, shouting that today was the day Xianwu would die. But out of nowhere, a cannon blast hit him right in the ribs. Kang took down the first guy with a broom and nailed the second one in the shin. The scared nerd was writhing on the floor in pain while she warned them. They needed to cut it out or they'd be in big trouble. That's when an older guy showed up, asking why they were messing with civilians while he was just in the bathroom. Kang asked who he was, and the guy said he was the leader of Guying Mountain. Kang looked relieved and was about to explain, but if I had to guess, that guy was way worse than the three on the floor. And yep, that's exactly what went down. He punched her right in the face. Dude, you can't do that. You want to get yourself killed. I'm about to jump into this story and take you out myself, you little punk. I'm writing your name in my death note. Then he had the nerve to warn her. She wasn't a civilian, so she shouldn't be hitting his kids. Then he glanced at Xianwu, all beat up, and smirked. It's been a while since we last met. Maru looked over, saw Kang on the ground, and started absorbing the yellow dust. There was no way he was going to let them hurt his crush. Xianwu told him to stop because it was insane, but it was too late. Maru was already charging at their leader. The guy didn't seem too worried, wondering what the kid thought he could do. Then, he took a hit to the face, spun across the room, and had his head blown apart. Our boy stood there, breathing in and out the yellow dust. Everyone was stunned. Xianwu knew this just made everything way worse. Meanwhile, Maru was trying to help Kang up. She weakly told him not to use that dust, but he just apologized. He got mad seeing her get hurt and wanted revenge. Slumped against the wall, the crazy leader started laughing. The worst part? He was soaking up the yellow dust too. He mumbled it was impressive. A human, not a D-team, could release this dust. He walked right up to Maru, curious about what he really was, and asked if Maru wanted to join his crew. Maru instantly remembered that this guy's crew was worse than demons, so he bluntly told him he'd never join a team of losers. The leader didn't seem fazed and just sighed, saying that was too bad. Too bad, because now he wasn't going to let Maru just walk away. With all this yellow dust around, maybe they should settle things with a fight. Guy Mountain versus Gangwa Mountain. After all, fighting only demons got dull sometimes. But Maru could already see it. His whole group was starting to turn into a bunch of crazies. The leader sat down, munching on what looked like seaweed. Then he announced it was time to kick off the competition. Kang was totally against it, but he ignored her and laid out the rules. It would be a 3-on-3 match. The winners would get to keep Yosiok. If they won, they'd forget everything he did at the office and the boy with the demon's power. After all, Maru should already know. If headquarters found out about this, there's no way they'd let him go free. So, it was best for him to fight to keep things under wraps. Kang could tell this jerk wasn't even listening to her. Xianwu asked why they didn't just take the leader out right away. Kang explained it would be chaos, as people would rush to defend him, turning it into a full-blown brawl. Then their leader smirked, saying to think of this as a friendly competition. Whoever gives up first would lose, but no killing, because killing is for bad people. Sangwoo and Maru exchanged glances. This guy had no clue what he was talking about. Xiangwu took off his cap, put on his gloves, and said he was excited to fight someone with abilities. Maru called him crazy, but surprisingly, Kang agreed. They should just go for it. For now, they just needed to stall for time. When they asked why, he said they'd get it later. Then she asked who would go first. Xianwu stepped up saying he was done just watching. The leader wanted to know who was fighting for them. At that moment, Trembling Mirror took off his glasses. He looked at Xianwu and noticed the monster in his eye. Then he explained that Xianwu could break his own body to hit his opponent. The 5-meter giant stepped up, saying he would take care of it. He practiced his attack, shot out some weird branch-like things at Shanwu, and yelled that he wanted to tear him apart. Shanwu hardly flinched. He just broke a finger, shattered the guy's attack, and asked, "Is that all?" Then he grinned like a maniac and added, "Of course not." The parts of his body he'd already broken were still under his control. In a flash, his opponent turned the battlefield into a coffin. Now, Xianwu was totally stuck. And if he couldn't break his body, how was he supposed to fight back? The opponent raised a fist and aimed for his eyes, saying, "Time to die." But Xianwu grinned back and said, "There's still plenty left to break." Then he bit down on his own teeth, snapped one in half, and crushed the guy's entire attack. In that same moment, he grabbed his opponent by the neck and whispered, "Now you'll see what it's like to have your 5th vertebra snapped." Damn, the guy's legs gave out right away. Zunwu told him to stay up and not pass out so fast. The next move was going to be a neck break. The guy was foaming at the mouth. Kang grabbed Zunwu's hand and warned him that if he kept this up, he'd end up killing the guy. And just like that, round 1 wrapped up. They had won. The 3-meter giant had done nothing but get beaten up. Now he was on the ground, throwing up like a fool. The leader asked if they could move on to the next match. Kang told Sunwoo he went too far, he barely bought any time. She stepped up and told them to send in the next fighter. The other team noticed she could turn her blood into blades. Seo and Maru shared a glance. A fight between hot girls never ends with a loser. Then the opponent tore out 2 chunks of her ribs to get ready for battle. Kang warned them not to use knives. It was way too risky, but the hairy Kim Maru summoned an army of bones, climbed onto a skeletal spider, and said she didn't care. Then she launched herself at Kang. She barely had time to react. She only managed to create a small sword for her first defense. Then, the skeletal spider slammed into her ribs. Wow, just 10 seconds into the fight, Kang admitted. I can't keep up with this. She slashed at her opponent, forcing the woman to fall back and immediately charged again. Kimura tried to attack, but Kang dodged easily, aiming for a quick cut and retreat. The issue was that, wow, her light cut turned into a massive pool of blood. The guys from the other team started calling for Officer Park, asking if she was all right. Kang tried to apologize, saying she couldn't control it well. Sian-woo and our guy congratulated her. She really managed to buy a lot of time. Embarrassed, she admitted this was her first time fighting a human. The other team started to leave, while the guy with the eye ability just stood there, shocked, wondering what kind of crazy place this was. He thought Gongwa Island was filled with weaklings, but their leader kept saying that only Han Maru was left. Kang pointed out that it didn't make sense. The score was already 2-0. They had already won. But the guy admitted that this whole silly competition was just to see Maru's powers. Plus, his fight was the most crucial one. It was worth 3 points. Kang wanted to say no, but the idiot stepped up and said fine, 3 points it is. But he wanted to take on the leader of the other team. Everyone thought he was a fool, while the leader just smiled. That's when the trembling nerd decided to check out Maru's power. The demon appeared in his eye, and he started bleeding right away. The poor guy broke out in a cold sweat, wondering if that thing was really human. Meanwhile, our boy just stood there, lost in a hellish abyss. The leader approached Maru and said that challenging the judge was cheating. He'd rather send in his best fighter. Then he called up poor Wooju. He asked about Wooju's parents, and the leader reassured him they were safe at home. Then he pushed the chubby guy forward and ordered them to fight. Yu Seok yelled for the leader to stop this. But the guy told him to be quiet, they'd handle him later. Then the leader told Wuju that if he fought well, he could transfer out. Now face to face, Maru was totally confused. He could see the head of that psychological demon looming behind Wuju. It was showing him everything he needed to say to break the poor guy's spirit. From mild comments like, "You deserve to die," to harsh ones like, "You can't even look that girl in the eye." And you could also see memories. Wuju crying, spilling coffee on Yosuk's head. His mouth opened wide, and he felt something sharp forming inside. He tried to hold it back, but it just kept spilling out. Even with his hand over his mouth, he found himself asking, "Aren't you happy, Wuju? At least Yeosuk is the one getting picked on instead of you." He probably watched him suffer daily, thinking he was lucky. Man, his powers were totally out of control. The pain still cut deep into Wuju's heart. Our guy rushed over, trying to help him out. But Wuju just whispered, "I'm sorry." Before Maru could figure out why, Wuju's body burst in a toxic explosion. Maru's whole body began to melt, his skin burning away. Kang shouted for him, but the leader told her not to get involved. The round wasn't done yet. He walked up to Maru, eager to see how much longer he could take it. He crouched down and mocked him. Soon his insides would start to dissolve. He told him he might as well give up. But even with half his face burned, Maru whispered, "I'm not done yet." The leader smirked, saying he wanted to see another one of his powers. All Maru had to do was take out the chubby guy on the ground to win. That was the rule. But then Maru said he didn't care about the rules anymore. He lunged to punch the leader, claiming that if he killed him, they'd win. He was right in front of him when the leader simply replied, "Unfortunately, that's not going to happen." He grabbed Maru by the collar and insisted he follow the rules. He repeated it 8 times, and in that moment, the whole room slammed down. Xianwu gasped, wondering what kind of power was causing this crushing force. Even he was having trouble breathing. Xianwu, out of breath, urged them to breathe carefully, because this was the leader's ability. A level 9 user with gravity powers. He looked down at everyone, smiling and sighing. What a beautiful view! Now that they were all stuck to the floor, things were finally getting interesting. He noticed our boy had already bounced back. Then he thought something was off about this kid's body. He decided to test him by cranking up the gravity just on Maru. Suddenly, our boy's ribs started cracking. But honestly, after that car scene, this was nothing. Still, the leader picked up on something. The more pain Maru felt, the thicker the yellow dust got. It looked like the demon he got his powers from was pretty special. That brought back a memory. That monster ended up haunting him. Even though it was a demon, its eyes were different from the rest. Our boy struggled to push himself up, barely managing to do push-ups under the weight. He was basically in a Goku training montage. Then he thought about using the power of words to mess with this guy. But there were no words on his back. It seemed like there was no way to mentally break this psycho. At that moment, the leader pulled out a knife. He said he hated being curious, which is why he wanted to dissect Maru. Maybe take out his lungs or his throat. But then, the mag shattered because Siomu broke a finger and told Maru to go after him. Right then, Kang slashed the leader's arm, jumped into the air, and went for an impressive move. But the leader cranked the gravity to 20 times, and in a flash, everyone was slammed to the ground, writhing in pain. The leader said with the gravity so high, they'd run out of oxygen and pass out soon. Maru called for Kang, but he just snatched the knife from her and said no one would get in their way now. It was time for them to keep playing. Poor Maru couldn't see any way out of this. This guy's power worked in a weird way. Tightening the noose around his neck just made the gravity stronger. Crazy, right? This dude was definitely a nutcase. Just then, someone knocked on the door, and he said they were closed for the day. But then this strange blue goo started creeping under the door, spreading all over the floor. Sion Wu, with his hand on the ground, asked what that weird stuff was. Kang just grinned and said he finally made it. When the fight kicked off and she left with Yoseok, she had messaged the big boss. Our boss in the Hawaiian shirt, Go Deepman, stood at the door, bleeding from one eye. His power was the demon of darkness. When something has darkness in its name, you know it's overpowered. Our guy was sinking into the dark pool, while the other dude, all covered in the goo, suddenly went under too. Maru quickly figured out he was in total darkness, but something felt off. He stood up, realizing he couldn't hear or smell anything. There was no sound at all. It felt like he didn't even exist. The gravity guy was trying to figure out what was going on when Deepman appeared right behind him and grabbed his throat. Turns out, his gravity didn't work here. In a flash, he was out cold on the floor. Then Deepman turned to our guy, who was still struggling and shouting for help. He grabbed Maru's throat too and knocked him out. Then he casually dug into his pocket. pulled out his two missing eyes, and popped them back into his face. The darkness started to fade, and everyone was back in reality. Deepman simply noted that the yellow dust had finally stopped. Kang sighed, saying he finally made it, but Deepman ignored her and got right to the point. He wanted to know why she and Sun Woo didn't report Maru's powers. Apparently, they were tired of being public servants. Kang apologized and asked if he could at least talk to the other team's leader, but Deepman quickly shot that down, saying now that things had escalated, it wouldn't be resolved easily. Scene change, a huge building, and everyone was staring at our guy chained to a chair. He was curious about what would happen to him next. In a room with 88 chairs but only 4 people present, Young spoke up, saying they were now in charge of Hanmaru. Wow, but Deepman quickly shot that down, saying he didn't agree. Maru had no clue this guy had so much power. Young slammed the table, insisting Maru was creating yellow dust. Someone like that was really dangerous. Others could end up witnessing those demonic abilities. But Deepman, fixing his Hawaiian tie, argued that this whole mess was caused by that other team. They were filled with terrible people, and Zhang knew that better than anyone. Zhang should be the one accountable for that crazy squad. Yu Yang said Deepman was going too far, but Jiang just told her to hush. The truth was, Jiang didn't care about the personalities of his team. He didn't mind if they were from Gaiai Mountain or if their leader was a nutjob. They were still needed to fight demons. At least those crazies were better than the Ganghwa Island leader, a level 10 user who hated fighting. Deepman took the criticism and pointed out that Maru also didn't like to fight, which is why he had to stay on the island. Plus, the two next to him were his friends who could handle his personality best. Jang asked if Diakman was ready to take responsibility if Maru caused a disaster. Diakman simply stood up, said yes, and walked toward the door. As they were leaving, someone called for Xianwu and asked him to hang back for a moment. Yeah, no way. The poor guy was about to get a father-son talk. Outside, Maru asked how it went. Like me, he also complained about Deepman's ridiculous tie. Deepman just told them they'd face disciplinary actions and that their pay would be cut. And just like that, Maru's phone time was over. He cried his heart out, but Deepman told him he was lucky those guys from the other island caused all this. If he messed up like this again, there'd be no saving him. Director Zhang was way scarier than he thought. Back to Xiao Wu, Zhang asked if his son could take out Han Maru if he ever lost control. Xiaomu paused, awkwardly turned his head, and said no. Then he got up and said if that was Zhang's message after 20 years, he was out of there. But Zhang told him to sit back down. This wasn't just a dad and son talk. It was a directive from the director. Maru was no longer just a regular ability user. A person who could create yellow dust was basically a demon. They had to be careful because he might be the enemy. Scene changed to another house. This was going to be the new dorm for Ganhwa's team. The place was a disaster. Clothes were scattered everywhere, and empty soda bottles were rolling around. Maru walked in just as the leader announced he'd be living there with him. Maru was already freaked out about where the guy's hand was resting. He asked if he really had to stay there. Dukman confirmed yes. It was the only way to keep an eye on him and ensure he didn't cause any trouble. Then, he put a hand on Maru's shoulder, giving him instant trauma. Dukman grinned and said they'd be spending 24 hours super close from now on. Back at base, Wan was watching him burn. He stood there all twisted up and asked if she had anything to say. She warned him he'd die if he started releasing yellow dust in the office. Yoseok said they should stop messing with the kid because this was exactly the kind of situation that made the dust rise. Maru just stood there, annoyed, unsure who he hated more. As soon as he sighed, Kim Yebek asked if he had started releasing dust. Dohukman immediately grabbed his face, wanting to take a look. Yeah, this scene looked pretty strange. Usually I'd see this kind of setup in more positive stories. As he walked through the halls, Maru was fuming. Now he felt like a monster. On his way, he bumped into Sunwoo, who was still mulling over what Zhang had said. That Maru was super dangerous, maybe even an enemy. Meanwhile, Maru was getting annoyed and asked if Sunwoo was just another person here to tell him to behave. Qianwu just shrugged and said he didn't care about Maru. That only made Maru angrier. This guy always knew how to get under his skin. That's when he noticed Kim Woo-ju had joined their office. Kang mentioned that since it was his first day, he could ask us about anything he was curious about. Then Kang turned to Maru and said she wanted to check out his eyes. He tensed up, insisting he wasn't releasing any dust, so there was nothing to worry about. But up close, she said he was so beautiful and told him not to be mad about the teen's behavior. Everyone felt uneasy because they wouldn't be able to protect the island if another disaster struck. He stood there, stiff and awkward, acknowledging he knew that. Now, sitting alone in the office, he felt miserable. He had to work harder than everyone else. Duckman's solution was to keep him off any missions. He was still sulking when two guys from headquarters walked in. He turned to see who they were, and suddenly one of them lunged at him, punched him in the face, and started a full-on beatdown. What the heck, man? The guy grabbed him by the collar, shouting for him to release the yellow dust. Maru was about to fight back, ready to go, but then he remembered what she had said. He couldn't cause any more trouble, so he held back. The wig guy demanded he release the dust, or he'd crush his skull. But then Baldy punched the wig guy in the head, sending him flying. Then he helped Maru up and told him to let it go. He was a bit clueless. They were just the double standards coming from headquarters. Maru quickly asked if they were back to test him again. I'm sticking with Baldy and Wig because it sounds way cooler. Baldy claimed Wig was his biggest fan. He even referred to Maru as King Maru. Feeling embarrassed, Maru wondered what that even meant. Bovieg was already rubbing his shoulders, saying if he could make yellow dust, he was even better than Ian, the director. Then he got a huge thumbs up, right in his face. It was clear he was destined to be the best ability user ever. Our guy felt awkward and flustered after that. A bit later, everyone started heading home. Maru glanced over and spotted Wuzu standing there. He asked if something was wrong, and suddenly, the scene changed to a meter showing yellow dust levels. Strangely, it wasn't working. Wuju apologized, saying he must have messed up but didn't want to say anything to avoid getting blamed. Maru reassured him that this place was different. No one would treat him badly over a little mistake. Or maybe he was just being awkward. The chubby guy suddenly looked flustered, asking what Maru had said. Maru brushed it off, saying he would definitely be treated well here. That's when he noticed the yellow dust. Wuzu quickly asked if he was releasing it, but obviously, he wasn't. Then he noticed a kid with weird orbs on his chest. Wuzu was already freaking out, saying they needed to notify headquarters. But Maru said with this amount of dust, it was probably just a level 1 monster. It would be easy. Then he remembered what that guy said about him becoming the best ability user. He jumped at the creature, shouting that he was King Maru, and bit into its neck without holding back. The creature dropped instantly. Our guy was ruthless. Wuju praised him, saying he really nailed it in one hit. But things were never that simple. Inside the first monsters, a second one started to break free. Maru was confused as to why it didn't die, and now there was another one. One of the orbs on its chest vanished, and it looked like it had evolved into a level 2 demon based on the dust. After a bit, Maru was worn out, totally baffled as to why it just kept getting stronger every time he took it down. Wuzu pointed out that the yellow dust had already hit level 5. He quickly ran off, saying they needed to get the rest of the team, but Maru told him to look behind. The monster had already jumped at him, ready to sink its teeth into his neck. At least Wu Zhu activated his venom ability, turning the creature to goo. But then the same thing happened again. Its body hardened, and another one came out, even tougher. This was a Hakusho evolution, and the worst part was it still had 4 stones left on its chest. It had hit level 6, and Wuju was clueless about how they'd deal with this. That's when our clever boy finally caught on. There were still 4 stones left. If he did the math right, 6 plus 4 equals 10, which meant they were in big trouble. He and Wuju had to get out of there fast. Maru said he'd distract the monster, while Wuju called for help. But Wuju shouted that he couldn't take on a level 6 monster by himself. Still, Maru was pumped, claiming he was King Maru and stronger than he thought. With that, he jumped at the creature, thinking that since he had eaten it, he should have a similar ability now. He swung a punch, but the creature dodged way quicker than he expected. Then he took a direct hit to the stomach. Maru crashed to the ground, completely unable to move. Before he could react, the creature slammed him with a brutal ground and pound. Ouch. Maru wasn't holding up at all. He had those same orbs on his chest, but he didn't get why he wasn't evolving even after taking serious damage. Looks like his regeneration was way too fast, making the ability useless. The monster was about to crush his head, and Maru screamed for it to hit harder. The beast lunged at him. Wuzu freaked out and shouted for him to be careful, but Maru just told him to stay back. But of course, the sidekick had to screw things up. Wuzu activated his venom ability. It stopped the monster's attack, but it didn't even flinch. Before he could escape, the beast slammed him in the head and smashed him into the ground, just like Maru should have been. But Maru came up from behind, wrapped his arms around the beast, and bit into its neck. Again, the creature's body started to harden. Maru quickly grabbed Wuju, asking if he was all right. Wuju weakly wondered why the jerk didn't run. Maru replied it was because this was all his fault. He couldn't just run away. Wuju urged Maru to escape and call for backup. Then he passed out. Maru knew if he left Wuzhu there with his weak recovery, he'd die. No one was coming. That meant he had to handle this monster alone, with only 3 more evolutions before it hit its final form. He couldn't let it reach level 10. He needed to take it down before it broke free from the cocoon. Maru smashed the hardened armor, revealing a red creature inside. This was definitely part of the evolution. He lunged in to bite it, wanting to take out the threat before it fully developed. But then, a massive hand shot out and punched a crater into Maru's chest. Damn. Now this was a monster. It was built like a total beast. But this time, it was Maru who started forming a cocoon. He was actually feeling happy. Finally, he was evolving. But then, the monster grabbed his head and lifted him up. Maru braced for a hit, but instead the beast swung him back and sent him flying. As he soared through the air, he saw the monster charging straight for Wuzhu. He yelled, begging it to stay away. Unfortunately, he crashed to the ground, slamming his back against a tree. At least the cocoon was made, and he popped out covered in slime. Remembering the creature's approach, he took off running. As soon as he started, he realized he was way faster after evolving. But when he got there, it was all gone. The yellow dust was fading, meaning the monster was gone too. He wondered where it went when his phone rang. He saw a monster alert in another area and thought maybe it was already there. At the same time, Dukman called, asking if he saw the level 7 alert. Maru said yes and tried to say something, but Dukman just told him to listen and warned him to stay home. Before Maru could say he was already there, Dukman hung up. Maru decided to look for Wuzhu while the others came to take down the monster. That's when he heard a phone notification from the bushes. When he checked, he found Wuzhu collapsed. He tried to turn him over, asking if he was okay, but when he saw the hand and the pool of blood, it was clear he wasn't. In that moment, he needed yellow dust to help Wuzhu recover. He started making his own dust, begging Wuzhu not to die. But the little hand fell to the ground, and it looked like the boy was gone. That was it. The first victim was down, and if he was just sent to die, that was so sad. Maru took off his shirt to cover his friend, and was definitely not happy about it. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, Kang was letting the leader know she was on her way. So where was he? Dipman warned her to be careful since the danger level was already at 9. He told her not to take on the creature alone and to wait for him. Suddenly, the whole mountain shook, and even people in the city felt it and saw the dust. The level hit 10, and Kang realized she couldn't handle this by herself. Dickman was anxious, while Yoseok was in a panic, and Senwoo was urging a taxi driver to hurry. Unfortunately, Jiwon was stuck in the car and knew she wouldn't make it. Kang was sprinting through the forest, trying to stop the monster before it reached the village. Then she suddenly halted and spotted someone coming toward her. She thought it was the monster, but then the guy turned around. He quickly told her to stay back and get out of there. Confused, she asked what was happening and why he was there. Maru was furious, got right in her face, and told her to leave before things got messy. She urged him to chill out and asked what was going on, insisting she wasn't just going to run away. That's when he revealed that the evolution demon had reached its final form. Shu glanced back through the dust and saw the creature coming. It looked like a 6-meter-tall bodybuilder with barely any body fat. She asked if he was really going to fight this level 10 monster alone, and Maru said he had to finish it himself. He tried to stab himself in the chest, but she stopped him, wanting to know what he was thinking. He explained that he consumed the evolution monster, so if he got a fatal injury, he'd evolve like it. At that moment, Kang realized Maru was acting weird and wondered what was going on. She told him to calm down since the rest of the team was on their way, but he got cocky and said he didn't want anyone's help. She punched him in the chest, asking if he really planned to stab himself without thinking about the consequences. At this rate, he was going to lose his humanity. But he just raised the stake and drove it into his chest, saying he didn't care if he died. Poor Kang stood there, shocked as she noticed the dust was thickening. Right next to her, she spotted a pile of Maru's corpses that had already died countless times. As she wondered how many times he had done this, the boss came from behind, ready to throw a punch. It was too quick, and her only choice was to defend herself. But not today, because Chad had arrived, everyone. He effortlessly blocks the punch, grabs the monster's arm, and yanks it off. This kid has completely lost it, and the creature is scared. But even then, it still grabs him by the neck and slams him into the ground. The ground gets wrecked, but Maru seems unfazed. The monster looks like it wants to let go, but Maru hangs on and pulls it closer. Meanwhile, Diepman just found Wuzu's body. He wonders how this all happened when suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the mountain. Kang starts to feel scared, saying this isn't the Maru she knew. Maru landed a punch on the monster's face and lunged at it. That's when she noticed he had a blank expression for the first time. In midair, as he throws another punch, the monster grows its arm back and hits him in the stomach. Poor guy goes flying, crashing through half the forest into a wall. Kang realized she needed to step in and cut her hand to use her power. But just then, Diepman grabbed her arm, telling her to stay back because she couldn't handle a level 10. They couldn't risk losing anyone else. She had no idea someone had already died. At that moment, Diepman wanted to know why Maru was there. He clearly told him to stay home and do nothing. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Young was yelling that a level 10 monster had shown up on Gangwai Island. Someone behind a chair said they just got word from Dukman's leader. Behind the chair was a designer who looked like someone from The Incredibles, but with white hair. She was the leader of the ancient headquarters and said she had already sent a team. If they couldn't handle it, they were to message Director Zhang. That director, sitting with his legs crossed, mentioned this was the first level 10 in 2 years. Yuzhong reminded him that the last time this happened, the entire Sirak mountain team and many civilians died. He told her to chill because they had Dukman on that mountain. Plus, they had that strange kid who was now rising from the rubble. He started walking again while the leader said he was losing it. Maru took off, running even as the leader shouted for him to stop. He went in for another punch at the boss, who was also getting ready to counter. Maru's hand and arm were crushed in the fistfight. Once again, the monster had him by the throat. Let the guy breathe. Deepan was already charging in to poke its eyes out, saying he couldn't just stand there. But Maru grabbed him around the waist and pulled off a classic Hunter x Hunter move. It was Ganson Arm 2.0 in action. With his stump in the monster's mouth, he kicked his regeneration into high gear, and his hand popped back on the other side of the beast's head. Even Dupman was stunned by the boy's brutality, leaving a dent in the monster's skull. As soon as it hit the ground, Maru went for round 2, tearing off a chunk. Kang figured no monster could heal from this, so it was finally over. But our guy kept going, throwing punches at its head and ripping off pieces. The leader showed up, telling him to stop, while Kang stepped in with her sword and chopped off the head. Finally, the monster's head rolled away, and Maru just stood there, staring at his shaking hand. Then Kang, looking stunning, stepped in and hugged our stoic Jiga Chad. Only then did the rest of the group show up, asking what went down. Jinhua wanted to know if the leader and Kang had taken out the creature, but Dai Upman just said Maru did it all by himself, leaving some in disbelief that he took down a level 10 alone. And there was our boy, standing in his love's arms, now a whole meter taller. Next scene, we're at Wuju's somber funeral. His family was in tears while the group stood there quietly. Hayosiok, who was closest to him, couldn't find the words. Kang asked Yuckman if he was all right, and he said he'd never get used to this. She then asked how they were going to deal with this situation. He explained that, as usual, Central Command would call it a work accident. At least he wasn't eaten, so they had a body for the burial. But one thing was clear, Gangwa Island was no longer safe. Tang asked if Maru had sent a message, but he said no. After handing in his resignation, he vanished. She suggested giving him some time before contacting headquarters, saying she'd find him and talk. But the leader refused, saying he'd seen someone else go through this before. Back when he was at Seoul's Central Command, a level 10 creature wiped out his whole team. He was the only one who made it out, and that's when he realized that losing a comrade changes you forever. Maru found himself back in the same room where it all began, lying on the bed and breathing out yellow dust. Suddenly, a crater opened up on the floor and a bloody hand started to come out. When he glanced over, he saw Zhang. At first, he thought it was just another one of his wild hallucinations. Jing said he came to have a chat with Maru and asked if he was surprised to see him. Clearly startled, Maru wanted to know how this crazy guy even got there. John explained that he had just taken down a demon and needed to talk to Maru since it looked like he was isolating himself after Wuju's death. Mara was worried about being blamed, but John just said that guy died because he was weak. Maru was taken aback by the coldness, but the director just mentioned he was concerned about Maru's mental health. Why was this guy sitting on his bed? Get off, Zhang. That bed is for Kang and Maru. But then he told Maru he couldn't end up like his dad. Maru was shocked that Zhang knew about his father. That's when Zhang revealed that he and Maru's dad were the first squad leaders. When the first demons showed up, they were the first ones sent out. Then, we flash back to 1999. Zhang was already 30 and was firing at a creature that was just standing there, blocking the bullets. The monster kept advancing until Han Su won. Maru's dad told them to keep shooting. Zhang was just frozen until his dad yanked him by the collar and told him to go back and lead the 6th squad. Meanwhile, another teammate got sliced in half. Han Su-won pulled out a grenade and told everyone to throw whatever they had. The creature was surrounded by explosives, and they ducked as half the forest got destroyed. Later on, smoke was rising, and they went to check on the creature. Bo and Ham Soo-yoon arrived in the smoke and saw the monster still standing, even with half its body gone. The creature opened its mouth, started sucking in the dust, and began to heal. They quickly ordered everyone to start shooting again before it could fully recover. But it defended itself against the bullets, pushed forward, and took everyone down. Han-son couldn't believe something like this even existed. John shared that on that day, both teams were wiped out. He woke up surrounded by dead soldiers, with Han Su-won kneeling nearby. He walked over and asked if Han Su-won was all right, but Han Su-won was just in shock, struggling to grasp why everyone had perished and what that monster was. Then more yellow dust appeared, and he said this wasn't over yet. He immediately took off running, and Jang followed, confused about his odd behavior. That's when He-chu freaked out, seeing a huge monster covered in about 36 eyes. He yelled for Han Su-won to run, but Han Su-won turned and told Jang that to survive, he had to accept it. Jang had no clue what he meant, but right then, a rift opened up in front of them. A hand reached out and pierced Jang's chest. Back in the present, he said the rest of the story should be clear since Maru had gone through the same ordeal. When his blood mixed with the demons, he started working for the government. Maru asked what happened to his dad, and John explained that after everything, he tried to convince Han Su-won to lead the organization, but he refused. It seemed that absorbing those powers had messed up his mind. At that point, he only talked about one goal, reaching a place called the Abyss. The protagonist remembered being dragged while his dad said this was how they would get to the Abyss. Zhang explained that his father became a demon because he thought it was the only way to defeat them. Our guy didn't seem to buy it, but Zhang pointed out that it was clear since demon blood runs in the veins of anyone with powers. In other words, anyone with abilities could fall into the abyss and become demons at any moment. After that talk, he looked at a photo of his dad and wondered if he had really turned into a demon, remembering John saying that if he stopped fighting the creatures, he'd be no different from his father. Armoy was deep in thought, and the next day at the office, Yipman was there watching. Apparently, the kid hadn't shown up for work again. It was time to start looking for him. Kang grabbed her coat and said she was going to his place to talk. But then the boy showed up, apologizing for being late. The office went quiet while Maru thought he'd stick around to investigate and find out the truth. He couldn't accept Zhang's claim that his dad had become a demon. At that moment, Zhang walked into a room where someone was chained up, saying the preparations were almost done. Dude, there was this huge creature tied up there. He mentioned that soon they'd see the abyss. Back at the office, things were pretty gloomy until Juan got up and said it was time for lunch. But Maru, tucked away in his corner, just said he wasn't hungry and they could go without him. As the others strolled down the hall, they noticed it was just the four of them again. Ever since the incident with Wuzu, Maru had been acting weirder, and she was starting to worry. Kang realized that not just Maru, but everyone in the office seemed a bit down. A little later, Dyukman opened the door and called for Maru, telling him to take out the trash while he made some ramen. So when he stepped outside with the trash, he bumped into Kang. He had no clue she lived there. She said, of course she did, since it was close to work and super convenient. Actually, most of the office crew lived around there. She noticed he was carrying the trash and reached to help, and their hands brushed. Was this some kind of proposal? Then she told him he shouldn't blame himself for what happened to Wuju, since everyone on the island shared the blame. But he looked away, saying he didn't want any comfort. He knew it was his fault. However, she walked away saying she wasn't trying to comfort him, but just telling him to move on. Because that's how people get by in this place. Everyone on this team had already lost someone important. He was puzzled by what she meant, but kept going up the stairs. And there it was, another alarm. Man, these folks can't catch a break. The leader sent Yosei, Juan, and Maru because he had a stomachache. It was just a level 6 monster, and Maru was already putting on his jacket. But then Sion-woo stood up and said if Maru didn't want to go, he'd take his place. Because it looked like Maru was about to screw up again. And he definitely wasn't in a good headspace. He just slumped in his chair, rattled. Meanwhile, Sion-woo was getting more and more annoyed with this downcast kid. Out in the mountains, Huan warned him to watch what he said since Maru was having a tough time. But he said he wasn't going to waste his energy worrying about someone so messed up. They just needed to find the monster and take it down fast. Before he could even finish his thought, a needle hit his forehead and he collapsed. When he got up, still confused about what just happened, he glanced to the side. There was a huge red monster, and Xianwu was on the ground. He breaks its finger and crushes the monster's neck, which looks like it dies. His two friends get up, asking if he really took it out, and he says it seems like he did. That's when Yoseok looks over, curious about what that thing is. There was a chubby cat named Jang, and it looked like he recognized it. He explained that it was his cat, but it made no sense for it to be there. He picked up the little guy, saying it was time to head back to the office, wondering why it felt heavier today. Sungu told him not to bring that thing to the office, but Ju-won insisted it could stay since it looked happy. Once back at the base, he told everyone to check out what he found in the mountains. But everyone jumped back in shock, and Kang quickly told him to drop it. The creature in his hands looked more like a creepy baby. It was the demon of duplication, and as soon as it attacked, it shot a spike into everyone's forehead. It fell and bolted, but in Josek's eyes, it was just his little cat making a run for it. He chased after it down the hallway, but suddenly slammed right into a door. Now even Deepaman had gotten hit in the forehead. A little while later, he joked that someone had the guts to bring a mountain demon inside. Everyone turned to glare at Yoseok, who quickly defended himself, saying the cat looked just like his. Plus, Jiwon and Xianwu were with him too, so they were partly to blame as well. Jiwon stood up and told them to stop pointing fingers and focus on hunting it down, especially since the dust was spreading. They reached that weird door, and she mentioned it might be an illusion, so they needed to be careful. Once inside, they were all blown away by how huge the space was. Kang then told them to look ahead. A Rakshasa was coming their way. Through the yellow dust, a massive monster appeared. It was the spider demon. Underneath the beast was a lifeless boy. Ju-won was shocked and instantly remembered the boy hugging someone and calling her mom. In that moment, she recalled how he died and rushed forward. Kang held her back, warning her it was too dangerous. But Ju-won insisted that was where the demon had taken her son. Kang urged her to snap out of it, reminding her this was just an illusion. That's when she realized the creature had attacked their foreheads, invading their memories to create these illusions. Maru then questioned if the spider itself was just another illusion. Sang-moo suggested it might not be, since the demon could replicate creatures they had faced before. The protagonist wasn't sure if that was even possible. That's when he remembered what Zhang had said about demon blood carrying information, which gave them powers. He wondered if that meant every demon they had encountered could be replicated here. Kang confirmed it. Both the level 10 demon that gave Dietman his powers and the gluttony demon that had granted Maru his. The real issue was, if the creature could copy all of that, how could they possibly stop it? For Maru, the biggest threat was the gluttony demon. It was the one that had caused his trauma. He fell to the ground, scared that the monster would show up and kill everyone. But Dietman reassured him, telling him not to stress, no one was going to die. The group moved toward the creature, and Kang charged in, saying they just needed to have each other's backs. At the same time, Sang-woo broke a finger while Kang slashed the demon's neck. The creature pulled back, and the two stood there confidently after taking it down. But just then, another door appeared. A moment later, they found themselves in a new location. It seemed to be part of the duplicator's power. Kang asked Ju-won if she was okay, and she said she was fine and had already recovered. Maru stood there, deep in thought. Ju-won had already witnessed her son die right in front of her. Xianwu then urged them to hurry and find the next door to escape this nightmare. The floor was covered in corpses. Maru spotted some mold on the walls and quickly realized they were inside Kim Yubok's memories. The guy was there, crying out for his wife. He recalled the time they had together and how they both ended up dying in that mold. It was just so sad. Shanwu pointed up, telling everyone to check out the ceiling. There was this huge red creature with moss all over its back. Spores started falling, and Maru accidentally breathed one in. He immediately threw up and checked on the others. Sadly, they were all already down. He realized he might be the only one still up thanks to his fast healing. He began pulling off the spores, convincing himself he had to do this solo. He lunged forward and bit right into the monster, tearing off a piece. Honestly, I was freaked out that this was just a trick and he might have bitten a teammate instead. Yikes. But that wasn't the case. Everyone started waking up. Yoseok was thrilled, saying he thought he was a goner. Kang glanced over at Kim Yubok, who was with his wife. Now it all clicked. How she died and where his powers came from. Maru remembered Kang mentioning that everyone at the office had lost someone close. He wasn't the only one who had faced tough times, so he couldn't let it defeat him. He decided it was time to move on and brushed past Xianwu, who pushed him back and walked ahead, telling him not to get in his way. Xian-woo had already gone to open the door, but Maru warned him to be cautious. No one knew what was waiting on the other side. But Xian-woo just laughed it off, saying he didn't care. Whatever came out, they'd just take it down and keep going. Then we noticed someone standing by the gate. Maru squinted, trying to see who it was. It was Xian-woo himself. Maru smirked, saying that with that annoyingly smug face, it had to be his memory version. The temple demon came out from the gate. Xian-woo didn't back down. He marched right up to the demon and asked for a power boost. He wanted something stronger than what his dad had. Maru was stunned to see this guy chatting with the demon, asking for powers. Xian-woo said it was the only way to stand up to his father. The demon snapped its own finger and broke its leg. As it moved into punch, Xian-woo shouted that no one would see this side of him. He started breaking his own fingers to try and take down the demon, telling it to die. But sadly, the demon had 78 fingers to break. Its arm twisted in a weird way, and Xian-woo felt it all crashing down. Maru realized he needed to step up and charged at the monster with Kang. Juwon and Diopman were ready to unleash their powers. That's when tons of arms shot out from the creature, and they knew they were in deep trouble. Every finger on it started breaking, and they felt their own spines cracking too. Lying in pain, Maru realized the temple demon was way stronger than he thought. As usual, Maru was the first to bounce back thanks to his quick healing. The issue was, he couldn't figure out why Xian-woo wasn't doing anything. He yelled at him to get up. He had the same powers as the demon, so he should be doing something. The poor guy was face down on the ground, wondering how Maru had the guts to say that. He wanted to be stronger than his dad. That's why he had asked for such a high-level ability. But here he was, embarrassing himself again, losing to this kid. If he couldn't even handle this, what was the point of having powers? The demon raised its arms, sprouting even more hands. Maru knew it was going for Targum next since he was the only one still up. The fingers cracked, and the pain was unbearable. So many bones twisted that even his healing was starting to fail. He fell to the ground, completely paralyzed, while the demon walked by him calmly. In a panic, he urged Dickman to take action. Diekman said he needed to pull out the demon's eye, but his body just wouldn't budge. Maru felt utterly defeated. His leader was no help at all. Everyone was yelling at Sang-woo to do something, since he was the only one who really got this power. As the demon moved closer to the last 3 team members, its arms stretched out, sprouting a bunch of fingers, and that's when Siomu realized he had to step in. He shattered one of his own teeth to smash the monster's arm that had just grown those fingers. Kang took advantage of the distraction, got up, and lunged at the creature, chopping off another arm. The issue was that she was weak, and the demon's body was covered in bone, so her blade just got stuck. Suddenly, something grabbed her neck and lifted her off the ground. She had no clue what was going on, and Maru was confused about why she was floating. Sunwoo was the only one who understood. From the blood dripping off the demon's arm, countless hands formed, grabbing her and holding her up. To make things worse, every part of her that was caught started twisting. Right away, Maru jumped up and ran at the creature, yelling for it to stop, but then a hand clutched his neck and lifted him into the air. He couldn't see or do anything. In that moment, Sungwoo realized that if he had this demon's power, he should be able to use it too. He bit into his own arm, letting the blood drip to the ground, and then hands started to form, grabbing the monster and pulling it down. In that split second when the creature was stuck, something came out of nowhere and hit it right in the neck. It was Juwon's spider, and with that, she announced that it looked like they had won. The whole team was completely wiped out. A while later, Seonwoo was leaning against a wall, but at least he was glad he'd learned something new about his ability. Maru called out to him, saying it was great he had picked it up so well. Next time, he wanted to see that ability used properly. Seonwoo told that annoying monster biter to shut it. He walked away, leaving Maru frustrated. He had just been trying to offer some advice. After taking a break, they headed to the next door. As soon as they got close, everyone felt something off. A noise rang out, and Seonwoo asked what was going on inside. Since no one recognized it, Kang figured it might be Maru's power. He moved closer, eager to see what was behind the door. When he opened it, someone was calling for their dad. It was Maru hiding in front of a huge creature. Everyone was shocked to see that this demon actually had eyes. Maru was pleading to be let go, struggling as he was pulled along, but his dad just told him this was the way to the abyss. If he wanted to protect the people he loved, he had to gain the gluttony demon's power. Hearing this talk about protecting others, Maru realized it didn't add up, especially after what Zhang had said. He recalled Zhang claiming his dad had lost his humanity. It looked like Director Zhang had lied to him. Back at headquarters, someone slammed their hand on the table, saying the situation was much worse than expected. It was the old lady from The Incredibles, saying they had way fewer ability users now, while the number of demons kept rising. Zhang replied that quality mattered more than quantity, but she shot back that the number of level 7 ability users was especially low, particularly in the ancient region. She asked what his plan was, if he was trying to force stronger people to come forward. Zhang simply said that if needed, that was exactly what he was doing. The old woman slammed the table, arguing that it was insane to let civilians die just so a few could become ability users. As the head of this place, you should know how dangerous those words were. Just then, someone knocked on the door. A young woman walked in, letting him know that the materials he requested would be delayed because they lost contact with Gangwei Island. The old woman immediately ordered them to check if those idiots were just slacking off. Meanwhile, the group was face to face with the gluttony demon, which roared at them. At that moment, all they wanted was to go home. That's when Usyok suddenly pointed out something. Strangely, the gluttony monster was already melting away. In just seconds, the creature sank into the ground and disappeared. Ju-hoon found it strange. Why had the monster vanished without even attacking? Daeok-min then noted that this demon seemed different from any they had faced before. Everyone felt a bit relieved that they didn't have to fight that thing. Then, someone called out for Sister. They instantly knew it was Kang's turn. She stepped up and told them to hang on. She was going in alone. Maru warned her it was too dangerous, but she said she needed to get ready for the real deal. They could wait there. She'd be back. Surprisingly, they actually stayed put. I wouldn't have done that. Maru thought it would be really tough for her to win, especially since Xian-woo had such a hard time with the temple demon. He decided to sneak a peek at what was going on. Kang was fighting the red monster. The weird part was another demon was watching the fight. It was one of those with eyes again. Plus, like the gluttony demon, it was starting to break down. Just then, Kang's sword shattered and the monster lunged to finish her. Maru yelled for her to be careful, but she insisted she'd said she could handle it alone. Still, he urged her to stay alert. The creature had some kind of defense, so she should have that power too. She stood there thinking as the door closed. Seung-moo said that was enough. Now she was going to win. He still wanted to help, but there was nothing he could do but wait. Eventually, the door opened and a bloodied hand reached out. No tears were needed tonight. She came out beautiful and alive. She stumbled forward and fell into Maru's arms, who was a mess himself. Sang-woo was annoyed. He had needed help while she took down the demon that gave her power all by herself. Jo-won then said that now only Yoseok's and the leader's creatures were left. The TikTok guy confirmed it, but wondered why the door still wasn't there. Seon-woo pointed out that the creature they ran into in the forest had powers like Yoseok's. Yoseok agreed. It made sense because when he first faced the demon, he was also looking for his cat, which meant only the leader's demon was left. There he was, scratching his belly and thinking about why he was being ignored. Everyone was starting to see that this leader wasn't taking things seriously. His demon was level 10. Yoseok mentioned that they had apparently gotten lucky. Ditman was really happy, because this made everyone a lot safer. Maru celebrated, thinking this might actually be the best outcome. Everyone seemed relaxed. The yellow dust was settling, and the creature was gone. The leader then said it looked like Kang had taken care of her problem quickly. It would be smart to take her to the hospital and then grab some Korean barbecue. Right then, Naru punched him right in the face. Everyone was shocked as Maru grabbed him by the collar, accusing him of being the demon. Ju-hwan told him to stop hitting the leader, saying he had lost it. But Maru pointed out that the leader had eaten Korean barbecue yesterday and got a stomachache. There was no way he'd want to eat it again today. For a moment, everyone stood there in disbelief, and the leader looked confused about the talk of his stomach. The next moment, he was getting stomped on, and everyone agreed that was enough reason. The leader shouted for them to stop. They were all losing it. He got up and ran out. The moment he stepped outside, the real deep man knocked him over. The group was stunned, and the leader asked what the heck he had just hit. The dust cleared, and the red devil showed up again. Later in the meeting, the leader realized that while he was stuck in the hospital with a stomachache, they had let a demon inside. He warned them that if headquarters found out, everyone's pay would be cut for a whole year. Because of that, they had to keep the whole incident under wraps. Outside, Kang just wanted to go home. She was worn out. That's when someone called out to her. She thought it was Maru, but it turned out to be Seon-woo, saying he wanted to chat about something. He then revealed that the demon from her memories, the one she just fought, was someone he had seen before. She asked where and when, and to her shock, Seon-woo said that demon was Director John. The guy already knew everything. His IQ was off the charts, a solid 200. Then the scene shifted back 20 years. He walked into his mom's room, asking where his dad was and if he was working in the basement again. She said, yes, he was. She added that he didn't care about either of them, so the boy shouldn't care about him either. Seon-woo went to the basement window, wiped off the dust, and what he saw was exactly what you'd expect. His dad was in the middle of turning into a demon. Back in the present, Kang was in disbelief. Seon-woo mentioned that when he checked the basement where his dad was, he only saw the demon, so he wasn't sure at the time. But as time went on and he recalled this memory, he became convinced. Kang wanted to know if the director was really a demon or why he just stood there while her family suffered. Seon-woo explained that was exactly what he was trying to figure out. He got involved in all this just to find out Zhang's true identity. If he got strong enough and worked at headquarters, he'd be closer to uncovering the truth. Kang told him that a childhood memory alone wouldn't prove anything. He needed something more solid. He said he already had a good idea of how to prove it, but he needed something first. She asked what it was. Next scene. At headquarters, Kang and Maru were there. Maru wanted to know why he was even present, and she reminded him she had explained it 1,000 times. He pointed at Xiangwu, saying they shouldn't be there just because of that lunatic's wild conspiracy theory. After a brief silence, Zhang walked in, apologizing for the wait. He sat down and asked what the three of them wanted to discuss. Maru felt awkward, but Xianwu got right to the point. He mentioned that the director was there when she couldn't tap into her powers. Mara was taken aback, and the director said he didn't really get what they were talking about and needed a better explanation. Kang then pointed out that the demon from that day had eyes, and she heard it was the director. Honestly, I didn't think their plan was to just confront him like this. Yang covered his face and said they had clearly been misled by Sun Wu's crazy theories. First, the kid wanted to blame his dad for his mom's death, and now he was calling him a demon. Until now, Maru had no idea they were father and son. Sun Wu slammed his hand on the table, insisting this had nothing to do with his mom. He just wanted to know who Zhang really was. Then he turned to Maru and told him to use the yellow dust to reveal the director's true identity. But Zhang warned that using that power recklessly would mean losing all protection from Gongguai Island. Maru hesitated for a moment, and then Kang suggested to Sangwoo that they should just drop it. She also wanted to find out what really happened to her family. But putting Maru in this position wasn't the right way to go about it. Hearing that, Maru remembered being at her old house and asked if this would really help her uncover the truth. He remembered the demon killing her brother. Then he stood up and said that if that was the case, Sion would have to take full responsibility. Yellow dust began to spread, and he declared that it was obvious. The director got up and asked why he would do something like this to his own son. But Xianwu shot back that he never saw him as a father. He immediately started breaking his fingers, saying Zhang was just someone who abandoned him and his mom. Zhang stood frozen as the glass behind him shattered. Xianwu charged forward and slammed his shoulder into Zhang's chest, knocking him out of the building. As he fell, Maru yelled that this was crazy. There was no dust to save him. But Zhang just told them to wait. They would see the truth. As he fell, the director thought these kids were really starting to annoy him. That's when they felt something. Turning around, he saw a portal opening. And of course, the director stepped out of it, blowing dust from his mouth. That confirmed Sion-woo was right. Yu Young walked into the room, wanting to know what was happening. Then, she noticed the dust. As soon as she realized she was facing the director, she demanded an explanation. Kang quickly shouted to Yu Young, accusing Director Zhang of being behind her family's death. Zhang then asked if anyone else from the island besides these three suspected him. No one spoke up. He just grinned and said their silence spoke volumes. Then he used his spatial power and slammed his hand on the ground. In a flash, everyone seemed to teleport. 1 second, they were in the office. The next, they found themselves in a secluded building somewhere unknown. Zhang was there, and Yu Young demanded to know what he was up to. He explained that since they started questioning him, he had no choice. Plus, he couldn't just cover the whole office in blood and guts. Then he unleashed a spatial attack straight at them. Yu Young quickly warned everyone about his power, and they all ducked just in time. Looking back, Maru noticed that everything the attack hit had been completely wiped out. Yu Young then asked Zhang what he was doing, questioning if he had lost it. But he simply said he was cutting off the dead weight. The kids had seen too much. It was just unfortunate that she, the bald guy, and Wigman got caught up in this too. They all would have made great weapons against the Abyss. But honestly, getting rid of Maru was a good move. Dealing with the abyss was a huge headache. Maru asked why he was being accused of siding with the abyss. Zhang started gearing up for another spatial attack, saying it was because humans were just too weak. Suddenly, his hands appeared behind them, and as Kang turned around, bam, two heads were instantly sliced off. Marfru was shocked, but then Yubium clutched her chest. She held her heart for 5 seconds, activating the power of Eternal Pause. Yu had the Rakshasa of Time, letting her sacrifice 5 years of her life to rewind 5 seconds. They were back to when Zhang was gearing up for his attack. He looked at them and said it felt like he'd done this before, since Yu Young had just saved everyone. The blood on her chest was a clear sign. But Maru was confused about how the two were still alive after seeing them get killed. She thought it was odd. Besides the director, no one else should have sensed her ability. That's when Baldy and Wigman rushed in, saying they didn't have time for this. They launched a coordinated attack, but Zhang vanished and reappeared right behind them. He approached Xian Wu and asked if his dad really tried to kill him. Xiao Wu snapped his fingers, affecting the director's whole arm. He shot a glare at the guy, saying he did it because he wasn't his father. Zhang got ready for another spatial attack, but Maru and Kang barely managed to bring him down. He warned them to watch out, or they'd end up dead again. Oddly, Yu Young was urging them to capture him alive since they had too many questions. Baldy and Wigman replied they weren't sure that was doable. They clasped their hands together, and when they let go, their blood seemed connected. They warned they were about to go all out. Wigman charged in first, bragging about being the fastest. Thanks to his blood ability, he had double the attack speed, but Zhang just made one quick slash and took his head off. Everyone knew the poor guy didn't stand a chance. Even without his head, Wigman still managed to punch Zhang in the face, and his flying head was smiling, saying they would win. Then Baldy unexpectedly revealed the secret of their ability. He explained that as long as their blood pact was intact, they wouldn't die. Zhang sent a spatial slash their way, but their blood bond reformed right away. Now it made sense why he explained it. The final mercy pact couldn't be broken. Wigman, lying on the ground, thanked the director for everything he had done, but sadly today was the day to say goodbye. Maru was impressed by the duo's strength, but Xian Wu quickly warned that Zhang was dodging everything effortlessly. That's when Kang told them to pay attention to what was going on. After dodging for a while, Zhang found himself trapped in the blood ties. Naturally, Baldy and Wigman started pulling, claiming this was the end. Zhang was being tugged from both sides. Mi-Gang told them to wrap it up, and Kang slashed his arm. At the same time, Xian Wu broke the other one. They were thrilled. It seemed like they had finally won, since Zhang couldn't use his powers anymore. The issue was that he started absorbing yellow dust to heal. Right away, the leader told Maru to bite him and stop the healing. Our guy took off running, yelling that he had never bitten a human before. But in the middle of his charge, Zhang's face changed. He smirked. Maru was horrified as he saw the man transform, fearing he had become the same creature from Kang's dream. The punch he exchanged with Maru unleashed a wave of spatial energy. Armboy tried to defend himself, but started getting pulled into the darkness. The energy flowed into Young's hand, and before everyone, Maru disappeared into the black void. The transformed monsters just stood there, grinning like a maniac. Meanwhile, Yu Young was still trying to wrap his head around what was happening. Zhang sighed and apologized, saying he hadn't wanted to show his true self. At that moment, Sung Woo realized this thing wasn't his dad. So what happened to the real one? The demon touched its face and muttered that he couldn't believe he had to kill the very soldiers he created. Kang clearly understood what he meant, but she refused to accept it. He confirmed it, saying he was the one who summoned the demons to her house. He had noticed her natural talent for sports and realized she'd become an amazing ability user. Of course, Kang lunged at him in anger, but the leader shouted for her to stop. Too late, she had already swung her blade. The demon reached out its hand, and her body began to disintegrate. Wow, she just got wiped out with one quick hit. At the same time, Yu Young lost an arm, and everyone else was gone. With no other option, the leader clutched her heart again and rewound time by 5 seconds. This time, she grabbed Kang's shoulder and warned her to stay still, or everyone would be doomed. But Kang was panicking, asking what they were supposed to do. Young admitted she had no clue. Since Jiang transformed, he had become incredibly strong. At this point, they didn't stand a chance. They couldn't even get close to him. Kong said if they still had Maru, they might have a shot. So how could they bring him back? The leader said it was impossible. No one had ever come back from the darkness John created. Meanwhile, our boy was running through the void, tripping over himself. He ran until he was completely out of breath but couldn't find any light. That's when he collapsed and thought he saw an exit ahead. Of course, he jumped up and dashed toward it, eager to see what it was. But in that light, he came face to face with Zhang. The man looked weak and starved, staring at him in shock. He asked how a human ended up here. Innocently, Maru said he got stuck while fighting someone who looked just like him. Now, he wanted to know what this place was. That's when Jean explained that the thing he fought was one of the demons that escaped from the abyss. Maru was scared because this creature not only had eyes, but could also talk like a normal person. Then the real John revealed that thing was one of the 8 gods, beings that were above regular demons. These beings had the powers of the supreme king of the abyss. Unlike other demons who act purely on instinct and kill without reason, the 8 gods can think for themselves and act freely. At that moment, the monster was launching another spatial slash, while Kang was telling everyone to protect the leader, or they would all die. With that, both Kang and the bald guy got sliced in half. Wow, that leader is really losing a lot of her life. She grips her heart again and rewinds time by 5 seconds. The heads are reattaching to their bodies again. And the illusionary Zhang mentions that those from the Supreme Realm are super strong. No one with abilities should ever take on these gods because they don't stand a chance. Right then, the guy tells the leader she's already turned back time so many times, so why not just give up? Meanwhile, Yu Young is thinking about when she started following that monster's orders. The guy smirks and says she's really stubborn. He raises his arms and opens a bunch of demon portals, claiming things are about to get interesting. Creatures start falling from the sky, and everyone realizes the fight just got way more complicated. They huddle together for safety, while Maru wonders what these creatures are really for. If the 8 gods are demons too, why do they kill other demons? Jian explains that the creature that took over his body escaped from the abyss and became an enemy of the Supreme King. Mao is trying to turn humans into weapons to destroy the abyss. Maru wonders if this whole civil servant thing is just a trick by the space demon. He wonders if taking out that bastard could actually end the war. But John says it's too late because the war with the abyss has already started. Our boy thinks hard and says if that demon dies, he'll regain control of his body. He grabs Zhang's arm, saying they need to get out of there. But Zhang says it's impossible since his consciousness is trapped here. Maru, feeling emotional, tells him his son is waiting for him outside. Jung is taken aback and asks why he's mentioning his son now. A 5-year-old in kindergarten wouldn't be here. Clearly, Maru is shocked by this news, and Jung just says that talking like this is really tiring. He's going back to rest with his son and wife. Marble tries to pull him away, saying they need to leave now because there's a way for both of them to escape. But the director lowers his head again, saying it's impossible to get out of here. Back at the abandoned building, the group is fighting off the monsters flooding in. The space demon says it's the perfect moment to take out both enemies at once. Then the spatial slash cuts through the demons and heads straight for the group. The energy spreads out, and they join hands to send a slash at the entire group. This wasn't just any slash. It was like space was closing in on them. The group felt doomed until a hand started to reach out from a portal. It was Maru back from the depths of hell. The monster was caught off guard, and Kang was totally impressed. He burst out shouting that the escape worked, fist clenched, ready for revenge. Then we flash back to moments earlier, when Zhang said escaping was impossible. Our guy insisted he had to find a way out. Just then, the demon reached for him, but Maru punched it in the face before it could bite, and it turned to dust. He was puzzled, not understanding why a demon was there. Then it hit him. He remembered a chat with Yoseok. He was anxious because a gate had apparently been open for 3 days. That's when Yoseok mentioned it happened in Busan. They were lucky the director went there and shut the gate by pushing air into space. The director was really something else. That's when Maru thought about finding the gate in this empty void. After wandering for a bit, he spotted what looked like a door. He walked up to it, unsure of what lay beyond. But it had to be better than being stuck there until he died, so he stepped through. But when he came out, he found himself in a totally different place. Martyr paused for a moment, then realized the yellow dust was so thick he was about to pass out. That's when someone urged him to hang on. In the distance, he saw a mysterious woman with long hair and green eyes. She looked at him, and suddenly all the monsters turned their attention to her. The ground began to shake, and Maru wondered what that noise was. Right in front of him, a whole army from hell was charging at him. There was no way he was going to fight them all, so he took off running. The problem was he had no clue where to go. Then, while escaping, he spotted another one of those gates and decided to make a run for it. He leaped through just as the monsters were closing in, and suddenly he found himself behind the big space monster. The creature turned around, surprised while Maru swung a punch. Wow, but even then, the jerk teleported to dodge the punch. Come on, let the kid enjoy his win. The monster was furious. While Yu Young was impressed, he managed to escape. He smiled and asked if everyone was all right, declaring he'd take charge from now on. Xiaomu told him to stop being stupid, since he couldn't even get near the space demon. But at that moment, Maru wasn't so sure about that. In fact, he believed he could win right now. Then the demon asked how he got out of the black space. Suddenly, he felt something on his back. A green energy shot out from the portal and hit him directly. The King of Hell yelled, saying he had finally found him. The space demon's arms seemed to be getting pulled, as both his soul and the real John appeared to be splitting apart. The creature was trying to close all the gates to avoid being taken. At that moment, Yuvong pointed out that the monsters were coming back, suggesting the director was trying to seal everything. He struggled to do it, while the king watched him from the gate. In an instant, it looked like it was all over. But the truth was, the space demon had figured something out. A big chunk of the power the King of Hell had given him was now being taken back. He clenched his fist in anger and reached out to Maru, blaming him for everything. Our hero stood still as the spatial slash came at him, and everyone was shouting for him to dodge. The boy's head got cut off, and Yu Young was about to clutch her heart again. But suddenly, Kang grabbed her hand and told her to look. Maru had activated his evolution ability. His body broke out of the cocoon, and he charged at the demon. The creature, however, just sent another slash without a care. But Maru wasn't too worried, though Yu Young was a bit shaken. The demon kept slashing, Maru was getting sliced up, while Baldy and Wig Guy just stood there wondering if the kid was even human. Meanwhile, the old man knew this was the end for him. Maru had already left, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, meaning now there were 10 of them, folks. He charged at the creature, claiming this was the end, but the space demon swung one last time, telling him to die. Maru, however, crouched and dodged the final slash, saying, "Not today." He sidestepped, bit into the creature's neck, and declared he was taking that ability for himself. He was hanging on tight to the monster. Kang thought this might be the end, or maybe not. Maru's bite didn't seem to hurt at all. He looked oddly shaken, and it seemed like his gluttony was acting differently this time. Once again, he found himself in the void. The space demon showed up, warning he'd regret this. He'd definitely wish he hadn't eaten him. The gluttony demon could consume his abilities, which made him think the boy was sent by the Abyss to take away his powers. He wanted to know how long the boy would let the Abyss control him. He must want to go back to that prison of endless war and darkness. Maru clearly replied that this made no sense, and he definitely didn't want anything like that. But the demon grabbed him by the neck, saying he wasn't talking to him. He was addressing the gluttony demon inside the boy. He wanted to know how the demon was so weak that it couldn't take over a human. After all, it was one of the original 8 gods. The demon stepped closer, locking eyes with him. Not only was Maru fighting off the space attack, but he also felt the gluttony demon trying to seize control of his body. He kept fighting back, but the other guy said it was useless. Every human with the power of the 8 gods eventually lost their consciousness, so he might as well join them and fight the Abyss. He urged the gluttony demon to stop battling the humans. It could be free, and together they could take down the Abyss. All they needed to do was team up and use ability users as pawns. In the countless memories, Maru began to open a creepy mouth, with smaller mouths forming around him. He yelled that he wasn't reversing the transformation and wouldn't let this happen. No way was he going to let anyone use humans like that. That's why he wouldn't let this monster take over his body. He vowed that the space demon would end this himself. He lunged for another bite, and suddenly we were back in the old building. This time, Maru took a big chunk out. He swallowed it right away while the guy called it stupid. He was about to say it was impossible without him when blood shot up, and they both fell to the ground. The stunning Kang rushed in to help our guy. Meanwhile, Sang-woo just stood there, watching as the body changed back. He grabbed his coat and covered the body. It looked like the old man wasn't coming back from being unconscious. Sadly, he was really gone. Wig Guy and Baldy looked over, wondering if it was finally finished. It seemed like King Maru had triumphed again. Meanwhile, Yudong stared at Zhang's body, curious about what would happen next. How would the Special Public Servants Group operate now? Later, back at the dorm, everyone was in their spots. And Deepman remarked that he never thought their leader was one of the 8 demons. He always thought the director was odd, but never guessed he was a demon. Everyone was saying how the room smelled like beer until Yu Young called out to Deepman. Actually, she calls him Sunbae, which is a more respectful way to address him. She mentioned she was thinking of calling an emergency meeting, but wanted to consult him first. Then she asked what they should do. Dirkman said that once the announcement goes out, it will spark mass panic, and the government won't stay silent. She knows this kind of news could bring the whole organization down. For now, they need to keep everything under wraps until they figure something out. And of course, they have to ensure no info leaks to anyone. Later on, Young is leaving with the dynamic duo, telling him to get some rest. At that moment, Deepman calls out to her, and from his expression, it's clear he thinks she did a great job. She doesn't need to call them Sunbae anymore. The others say that Deokman is such a jerk, basically saying that the wound is ancient now. Night falls, and Marub is asleep in the living room. He wonders why that guy is there instead of going home. Sangmu says he just doesn't have the energy to head back. He thinks it's best if the kid heads to his room since he can't stand having someone sleeping next to him. Maru points out that his room is really just a storage area. He usually crashes on that couch over there. He then calls out to Sunwoo again, mentioning he has something to discuss. He managed to talk to his dad. Sunwoo sits up right away. Maru explains that it seems his dad has been stuck in that dark place all this time. He tried to get him out, but it just wasn't possible. That's why he wanted to say he was sorry. Sangwoo pauses for a moment. His expression hardens, and he turns away, saying it's okay. But Maru shares that his dad really misses him and his mom. Then he asks him not to hold any hate anymore. Sangwoo lets a tear slip down. With that, he lies down, wondering what's going to happen next. He recalls that before dying, the demon mentioned that soon one of the 8 Abyss gods would come for them. From now on, they'd have to face the Abyss without his help, which meant humanity's end. Maru feels lost on how they're supposed to take down these Hell Gods since they're stronger than any demon they've faced. Then, the Hell God's voice commands the one with his power to step forward. A knight who looks like Maru's dad shows up, and she says it's finally time to like this video to help Mamoru create more awesome content for his viewers. Hit that cheeky little bell and I'm out.